you train your mind for MA, and it's like weaponizing the TA, right? I think one of the big things is the obviously, well, it, of course, because I've been talking about it so much, is the reduction of emotion to optimize logic. I think is a huge thing that everybody constantly needs work on. It's like having a car and just constantly needing to get your oil changed. Everyone kind of starts with this beater that needs a lot of work, and you know, when you finally improve your mind and get that shiny new car, you still need that upkeep, you still need oil changes, you still need to rotate the tires for wear patterns on your tread, you still need to clean it, you still need to do all the maintenance that you would, right? So I think that's kind of the way I like to think of the mind. Even when it's perfect, it still needs constant work. I hit a barrier. I was improving my trades for a while. Oh, hey Lewis. Lewis is joining us for a week. He's the winner of the Tell Us a Story contest we had, which is kind of cool. So he's joining us for today. Trades for a while. Recently seemed to have hit a mental block where most of the trades I end up taking. Yeah, okay, so personal barrier. Trades were improving. A mental block. What is, when you say a mental block, describe that. Describe what you mean when you say mental block. Of taking worse decisions. Where do the decisions come from? Are they bad? Is it bad TA, or are you making mistakes? Because that's the first way you identify where your problem is. Is it bad TA, or was it bad decision making? Bad TA, your knowledge set isn't there. If it's bad decision making, then your MA game is weak. Says I've continued to work on my technicals, put good time in on the charts, walking through moves. They're just to practice. I feel like this has helped with removing the illogical fear, anxiousness of reversal while in trade. So you know what we could do? We could walk through the together if you guys want. We could walk through the top of the move. I mean, why not, right? Took some emotionless trades, experience, but felt good. Not like good. Approved. I could do this. Same day I saw BTC level again. Thought about the possible dump and shorted it. Got right through. Immediately, lesson learned. But I'm learning things so much more. Less information seeking. Where I don't know everything. I just need to know. I don't need to know everything to make money. That's so true. That's such a good take to get out of it. Is to know that you don't have to know every single thing to make money. Markets are always evolving. You're always going to get shocked, right? So. End of 10 trades on profit, managed to grind 50 to 600 within a week. Wow. However, I'm finding out patient dividend locking profit 40% when the move is going. Family problems not helping. So yeah, I've gone through this as well. When you're too busy to actually take the trade properly. The buildup of emotions caused me to make that decision. Generally, my TA appears, especially after review. They point out errors. So have you been watching the mental analysis content, Lewis, that I've been putting out? IG and YouTube and TikTok? Because it sounds like you're just allowing emotions to alter your logic. I think this is why I'm starting with my new mental analysis talk with emotions and logic, and the pitting of them against each other in how the emotional mind and the logical mind work together. This is why I've started here in the new content, because really it's almost like two enemies fighting and only one can win. So when you put emotion and logic in the ring, emotion always wins. The trick is to not put emotion in the ring at all. This is why I've been this is why I've been having such a hard stance on this. And there's a lot of other MA stuff I'm going to be getting into, starting to segue into different things other than emotion and logic. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, Naya's going to talk about primers and activators, so I won't get into that too much because she'll be releasing content about that. Primers and activators are a good one to keep in mind going forward. And yeah, whenever we make these decisions, it's as emotionless as possible, right? Brain fog videos, a perfect example of how to achieve it too. Like the great thing about those brain fog videos is they describe what's happening, but then they also give you a fix. So those brain fog videos are like critical, and that's really the way you achieve it, is to reduce the effect that emotion has on you. just like I said in the video, just reduce it. Think about it like stubbing your toe. Not that bad after all, is it? It's the same way you have to treat emotion. Whatever you're feeling, it's not that bad after all, is it? And then as long as you can have that mindset and understand that if you were to let emotion win, you're just taking away points of logic. So imagine every time you allow emotion to you have a level marked here, right? Trading view. Okay, let's zoom in. I'm gonna do this with one hand while I'm having a coffee cup in my other hand. You imagine you had a level here. Imagine you had a ladder point here. I guess you could go for the reverse here, and that's fine. Imagine how all this stuff. Every time you feel an emotion, you're taking logic away. So just visualize it like this. Every time you feel something, hey, remove a level off your chart and give yourself less information. Basically what you're doing in your mind anyways. Levels can be on the screen, but you'll be paralyzed when they come. So yeah, every time you have an emotion, well, might as well take away a line on your screen and have less information to work with. I'm feeling happy. Oh, there goes that one. I'm feeling mad because I missed a trade from earlier. Oh, there goes that one. Holy shit, my chart is blank. What do I do? This is the same way I would employ people to think about it, is that every time you feel an emotion, just visualize it as losing a level on your chart. Oh, hold levels all of a sudden don't exist because I'm feeling mad. Okay, well, that's how it is. Every time you feel, you remove something. So that's should be a pretty stark answer to you know, like why should we feel no emotions? And it's not to be an emotionless robot. It's just when we're using our logical mind as a certain way it works. Got no problem with the technical, but I still don't take them on point. Time I take it, it's too late. You're a failure, Richard? That advice makes a lot of sense. Yep, it's a very stark way. It's a very black and white way to look at it, to keep yourself in check. So yeah, if you want to feel, you can, but feelings remove levels. Might as well be blind and paralyzed to them. MA sessions help a lot. Yeah, and I can't stress enough how important MA is. Technical analysis is like working with an IKEA instruction book, an IKEA instruction booklet. While it may be tough and the drawings may suck at times, while they may suck and while you might bang your head, there's just like a simple logic flow to it that works, and you know, mental analysis allows you to weaponize that. So it's really the way it is. Working on my focus and improving TA, rewatching a lot of Wolf on Wall Street 6 years later as a trader, and following Jordan Belfort's sales coaching helped me a lot to get rid of. We're blocking some fire on. Yeah, I think Jordan Belfort is a highly emotional dictation creature. He's a more salesman than trader, but yeah, he's a trader too. Good that it's helping you. That's a helpful way to look at it. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Hours of content each morning. I have to be aware. Don't search for trades with me. Yeah, okay, so you're studying for 2 hours and then trading. Yeah, that makes sense. Trading time is trading time, right? Like, there's so I'm gonna, oh, this is a good one actually. The next part of material that I'm releasing is gonna be on how we learn. I can give you guys a quick heads up as to what it's about, and it's all about learning and the best way to learn. Like, what is the most optimized way to learn? And the most optimized way to learn for humans, the way the human mind works, is option number one. The brain works the shittier the material is, because it forces the brain to mobilize. And option number two is cognitive strain, where the brain learns. So I'll put content out on that this week, but there is a proper and an improper way to learn. So there's a good and bad way to learn, I suppose, is the way to say it. There's a right and wrong way to learn. And when you say right and wrong, it's that when you're learning properly, you intake the material. When you're not learning properly, you only take pieces of it. That's why when people go and study my courses over and over and over, it creates cognitive strain, because the mind gets so tired of hearing the same thing. It creates cognitive strain, and then that's when you learn. So there's learning and repetition, not because you need to hear it multiple times, because you have to be under cognitive strain before the brain actually absorbs it properly. I'll be doing videos on that this week, but there's definitely certain ways to learn, the ways in which we should and shouldn't learn. That's an interesting topic, and it should help people. Okay, let's move on. Let's get on. I think you guys can type some MA stuff while you guys are doing that. I want to save a bit of time here by going through the videos. Next week I'm not here. On the 23rd, I have surgery on Thursday, so I'm going to be out for a few days, 5 or 6 days. I won't be back in commission till about Tuesday, so I just want to get through as much as we can today, and I've got something else planned anyways for that time. Bit shaken. Tried to buy some NFTs yesterday, first time. Pulled out in 5 minutes. People are paying thousands for ETH gas. Weird. I mean, it makes sense that you expect high appreciation, but one crypto transaction, thousands. That's pretty stupid. Sucks. I'll have PTSD. Yeah, that sucks, dude. Okay, so very simple. Weekly to weekly trend created first test, right? That was not this move. Sorry, we need to move forward in time. This is where I created my new trend, so there's no trend there. Daily ladders off this to try to see if it can create a range. Go to the hourly chart. So daily tests, moves over, breaks over, creates trend. Okay, let's just hit play. Breaks trend. After the hidden trend, the weekly, we can get rid of that. We can get rid of this. A lot of this stuff is useless right now. Broke daily, goes after ladder point. I believe there's a break level here on the daily somewhere. There's a break level right here. Looks like that's what it targeted. Anyways, it's just laddering off the move. It's just laddering off of here. So you actually have a trend that you could use now would be this guy. It's kind of a bonehead trend. It's not really it should be on the 4 hour. We should check the daily first, but technically this should be on the 4 hour. Yeah, this is on the 4 hour. Knew it. 12 isn't used here. Not in this scenario. We do use a 12 sometimes, not here. Your 4 hour. This is purple. Let's play out a bit. There we go. It's just really all you're looking at. It just laddered off its move, and we're going to see if it can actually hold its range or what it's going to do. Delete everything else on your chart. It no longer matters. Questionably, the weekly could still stay if we start hard closing under this trend. This is what I'd be looking for right now. Yeah, I don't think there's too much to dissect with this move. Break over the daily, which was also the weekly. It was the weekly too, but I would be looking more at the dailies. Daily here. That was the weekly. Here, break over the daily hold level. You need to mark this too. You need to mark this too, because these are going to be your guiding lights for the trade. And it just ladders off the top of the move. There's nothing really to talk about. Pretty straightforward. Break over hold levels. Go to the next one. It's like pretty straightforward. I don't think there's anything else in here, is there? Yeah, this is already tested, which gives you this as kind of your final test before the move breaks. Right? You could reverse off this as a ladder point. Right? Reverse off that as a ladder point. It can't hold the move. It's just going to break up to the next range. So actually pretty straightforward move. Nothing to dissect. This is the first time I've looked at it. Nothing to dissect at all. Real question is if it can start closing under trend. Yeah, you can't really create a weekly reverse right here. It's already been tested. So your next big level would be right here. If you lose this on the weekly, that's pretty alarming, but you're not there yet. That would be your next thing. First lose trend, then lose that, and look to attack the bottom of the range. Surprising to see Bitcoin back up at 64K already. Oh, let's see what Bitcoin's going to do. First and foremost, it's got to lose this weekly level. At least you've created a pretty decent hold here if you are going to think about shorting. Like it's already been attacking that hourly. Even right here would be your ladder point, I believe. You're going to come back up and fail in the future. This will be your ladder point on the hourly. Reverse. This ladder's the move. I actually wanted to ask about the 12-hour time frame. Going back through the FOT lessons. Sometimes I notice you use a 12-hour quite a bit. I use it sometimes, but I gathered that the 12 is just very similar to the 4. Again, there are key scenarios. There are scenarios where you would use a 12-hour. The 12-hour would be used when you have 12-hour levels targeting each other, just like a 15-minute level targets each other. Like say if you have a 15-minute hold and there's a 15-minute hold that started the bottom and a 15-minute hold that attacks the top, then you'd be using 15-minute holds. So this is what happens sometimes with the 12-hour. When you have a 12-hour hold level, it holds the move. You can tell in your time frames when you're working through time frames. Like 12-hour was used back in the day, back when Bitcoin was at like $4,000. 12-hour had created the Pandora's box. So for a while, the 12-hour had been being used because the 12-hour had. You're going back to like 2018 now. Yeah, I think it was December of 2018, if memory serves me. Possibly, actually, no. I think it might have been 2017. And there had been a sequence of 12-hour levels that targeted each other. And it's like how I show you guys when like a 15-minute targets another 15-minute. It's the same thing with a 12-hour. Like you can tell there's no 12-hour holds here by the way the chart is. Like this is not the level it's targeting because there's a much bigger time frame. It's pretty rare that like there's a very certain kind of visual pattern that happens when a 12-hour is attacked. And it's very rare because typically it's subdivided from daily into the 4 because it's got to be a certain time frame that closes for it to not have 4-hour hold levels, but only have a 12-hour hold level. And it has to happen on both sides of the chart. So not only is it a rare instance, like it's not a phenomenon, it's not that rare, but it's a pretty rare instance for you to have a 12-hour level start a move, also on the opposing side attack a move, which means it had to have created that 12-hour in the past, onset the 12-hour in the moment, to then go and target another 12-hour to create that bind. So like it's a pretty rare, like I wouldn't say it's a phenomenon because it happens like once or twice a year kind of thing, but it's rare. It's very rare that you have a 12-hour that's created and it's not 4-hour holds retesting or a daily untested or a 4-hour untested level. It's rare. It's rare, just the way the 12-hour time frame works, but it can happen. So for a while we were stuck in a 12-hour bind on moves, and 12-hour bind on moves is just like happens so infrequently that when it does happen, you get stuck in it for a while. But when it's not happening, like it takes a lot to create it. You'd have to go on your chart and find, like here for example, 12-hour untested level. Hold has no daily. Oh, look, 4-hour right there, so it can't be the 12-hour. It can only be the 4-hour. This is what happens. It's got to be like a one. It's a very weird scenario because it's got to be a candle that's distribution on the 4-hour, then accumulation on the 4-hour, but starts in distribution without breaking over the top of that. So like it would have to be like this. Like it starts the 12-hour. Goes down, closes in distribution, and the 4-hour moves above the hold level, stops, moves above the hold level, stops, the 12 hours created, and then the 4-hour breaks up. So therefore everything in accumulation in here on the 4-hour, no daily creation in here, but a 12 on the first candle. Like it's a very, very rare thing to have because it typically just breaks down in ways where the 4 hour is always a deeper hold, which invalidates the 12 being used because then you have a backside frontside combo level on the 4. So it's like super rare. It's super rare. It's like I said, it's not a phenomenon, but it's rare. Happened back in like 2017-18, and then the 12-hour candles had dictated the charts. A great question, by the way, one that I've never really answered. Oh God, like where did it happen? You know what? It doesn't matter. Anyways, it happened back in the day. I think I talk about it in FOT. I don't want to waste too much time here deep diving. I don't want to push any like MA and stuff like that. Any random talk, I don't want to push past 7 o'clock. So we have like 5 minutes to just do that random talk before we get into lessons, because I'd like to get through possibly 4 today. One day at a time, we'll do these 2 back to back. Oh yeah, good. This one's only 9 minutes. This is 20. We'll do these back to back, and then we'll get into active and passive contracts today. Oh no, there's this one right here, 58. Talking about this? No. Weekly reverse, not important. Really, what Bitcoin is trying to do right now is to see if it can develop a move. Like develop a move down by creating a top. I guess before developing a move down, it has to create a top first. So yeah, we got like 4 minutes left, so let's get it all out before we go into lessons. The daily reverse right here. I don't think you have any 4s. This is XBT. A 4 hour level right here. Daily and a 4 right there. XBT chart is what we used to use in the past. It's like the legacy ticker. Yeah. Daily here. I don't think you have any 4 hour. I said, oh, you do. Well, to be fair, it's kind of tested. You'd almost be like right here, backside reverse, then the backside smaller valley reverse on this move, something like this. That's like the hourly backside. Because that daily's tested, so you don't really use it. At that point, you'd be laddering off of this. You don't ladder, so you can't test this. Like this would be it. Backside right here. First backside reverse. But you know, you're pretty thin here. I don't know, justifying these as shorts when Bitcoin's moving up, that's pretty optimistic if you ask me. I don't know about that. That's pretty optimistic. I don't think I would be taking those shorts. Rather right now it would be great trend if this move is going to go back below the weekly, because really that's the only thing that's important. Like that's what I was talking about in the chat in butterfly effect, is that like, oh look at that, I even have 2. It's so important. This is really like the key thing here, because this is what held the move down in the moment and would have created the trend. And then once this hard closes, you can simply get rid of this, which is good. It's good. Not really sure if Bitcoin's done yet. We gotta wait and see. Two more minutes and then we'll start. I think this was a hell of an area to trade. I didn't take any trades in here. If people did, I think this is a hell of an area to trade in terms of like, you got to have a lot of balls to trade in here, catch something crazy, because I think the danger of breaking this move up in a big way once you break over this weekly is pretty big. I'd almost wonder once you break this if it just like goes crazy. Yeah, break this level and it just takes a move up, creates a range, holds its level, has a huge move up, pulls back in a big way. Now it's seeing if it can break. I think this is a hell of a spot to try to trade, and the only thing I would do right now is if I was going to short, I would look for just the range that can hold the move. This isn't saying that this breaks and it goes all-time high, but at least this gives you a good 3D point as to where this could break over top of a level, test trend, and break below the level. The reverse levels are coming up, lag and DAC on I think it's like episode 60, 74, 73, 72. I believe it's 72 reverse levels come up, something like that. So good job, Radu. Hopefully it moves down, man. Not liking the levels. Yeah, I think this is a really tough area to trade. You say the top test here was a deep dive of the daily or a lower time frame inverse break. I would say it probably laddered off a break level if I had to guess. Without seeing chart, I would say it laddered off some break. So if this is the break highest time frame, the next break would be here, which it actually hit. So immediately you know it's targeting this 4 hour. So once it breaks this, the move is done. So you can already see that this is like what's holding the move. You can already see maybe this is a 12. Wouldn't that be something? I don't think I would use a 12 here. I would actually go as far as looking at the daily and the wouldn't use a 12. So daily, now go back to your 4. Targets over the break. So you're talking about a 4 hour backside right here, right? Like that's what you see here. That's what's testing some backside combo level. I don't even think you can go that far back, can you? You can't. Shoot. Can't be that. 4 hour backside. It's ladder point from here to here. Falls short of targeting this. So you could be reverse here. Yeah, I wouldn't even get that. I wouldn't even go there. I would just use the hard close on the highest time frame that's relevant. This is such a tricky level to use. Hard close this maybe on the 4 hour is your key. Hard close out on the 4 hour. That could be your spot for re-entry above trend. What's more typical? The 12. 2 hours useless. Podcast release estimation. I wanted to record it this coming week, but with surgery coming up, I'm gonna see how like Monday and Tuesday looks. Shit, it's 7:02. Okay, we're gonna start. At least for me, until highly profitable. I think this is like I think the takeaway here is that this is extremely risky trading when you're pushing the top of a move like this, like all-time high. I think there's a short at hidden trend, and then you get out and you just wait. Like I think anything else is just really effing risky, to be honest with you. It's okay to sit on the sidelines sometimes. That's what I would say about this. It's really risky. There's no clear indication of where this thing should move down other than just having like a greedy ladder point. Like down here, stuff like this, fine, easy to see. You know, the top at 64.6. When I called that out back in the day, not so easy to see. Trading this range here is one that I would just not be trading. Or I would be taking one trade on like the greediest reverse level, and 63.1 would have been it. There's something, there is, but it wouldn't have been hit. Like if I was going to take a trade, I would have taken the trade right here. I would have just went for, no. I'd do either of those. I would have just gone for this. Honestly, I would have just gone for this, and I would have missed the trade. Unless there's a 1 hour reverse in here, but I don't think there is. If I was trading this range, I would have taken a trade here. Possibly I don't think I would have taken a trade here. 64, whatever that 4 hour level is. That's the only thing I would have even considered taking a trade on. 64, 382. I would want like 60, 63 and change. I would have not have been over 63.50 just for fear of missing the move there. That's where I would have made my trade, and I would have missed it. So, and I refused to trade this range. It was too crazy after the weekly broke. I was just like, no, I'm not touching this thing. So even if I had, I would have missed my move, but I wasn't confident in this. So just a ladder point. Just a ladder point that can create a trend that gives us some guidance for the future. That's all it is. Like, how come you can't find a level? Yeah, no, it's just a ladder point. This is butterfly effect 2 stuff, so stuff I won't get into of what's happening here. But yeah, I would not have taken this trade. I can say that. You still want to know how to call ups and bottoms without any price history? One day. Yeah, let's turn the music off. This last comment I've played it. That laugh was cynical. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about butterfly effect 2 lately, so yeah. Round suggestive, of course, price change. For level.
So, what do I care if I miss this 8%? Why would I leave an order open? That's stupid. I can just make 8% while I'm actually watching my charts. What do I need to be charting this at 9 p.m.? I fell subject to that last night because we were dropping so hard and I got excited. And I had already made 6% on the day on a 100x position. So I was like, yes, gonna be one of these days, it was just like 12:30 and I'm like, you know what? And we were about to hit that level last night at 12:30. Like, I'm going to check the time at 12:30. And I know we were dropping like crazy. Like we were right here. And I was like, yeah, this is right here. And I was like, okay, this is the pullback we need. We didn't even hit the inverse level here. We're going to pull back. We got blue candles forming. And it's like, yeah, we had nothing to hold us up. And I was just like, you know what? Screw it. We were moments away potentially testing this run to 8:30, like within 45 minutes. And I was just like, I don't care. I'm just going to bed. I don't have time for this crap to wait. And I'm glad I didn't. And this is why, because then you'll be waiting forever and it'll screw up your entire weekend or your entire week, and it'll set you on, like, just don't do it, man. Just don't do it. I don't care how good the levels look. There's better stuff on the charts where you just one step at a time, every next move. That's all we care about.
I think this is pretty important for what we've just been looking at on the charts, where sometimes we can just say, like, this is exactly what I pretty much just said with regards to trading in this area, is that, like, does it matter if we miss this move? Like, there's always a next move. The risk of finding the ultimate short, just like the risk of finding the ultimate long, sometimes the ask becomes heavier than the actual action. And I think it's very healthy trading, and I think it's a very good mindset to have, to just say, like, yeah, I'm not really sure what's going to happen here, and I don't think it's worth it, because there's going to be better spots developed off this move, right? Like, you could even just as kind of like a dummy statement, you're really just long over top of this. You're worried about missing longs, and if you want to short, you could simply just wait for the pullback and short something else here. Right? Like, you could short one of your other levels here. So I think this is pretty. Mark your 4 hour level here. The reverse if you have to. This would be a good spot over top of trend. That's better than just trying to float. Like, you have to look at this as, okay, if I'm going to take one trade, and actually would do it right here. If I was going to take one trade, and especially when you're trading with leverage, should I try to time the top, or should I just wait for a pullback? And like, okay, so what's the difference here? Like, if you were to get this versus this, and this level holds, this level has a higher chance of holding the move, and you've only managed to subdue 1.3% instead of trying to guess some level that could constantly just be moving up. Like, what if this thing moved up to like 80K, and you're taking shorts around like 62, 63, whatever, and it's still moving up? right? Like sometimes when we're trading, it simply makes sense to sit on the sidelines and wait for the opportune moments. And one day at a time is pretty important to understand that you don't have to worry about, like, yeah, there's value in saying, oh my God, look at this level. It came so far. But that happens every day. Like, this is a cycle that happens every single day where there's a level that's being tested and oh my God, I've waited for so long. You can always, if you're looking for it, you'll find it. If you're sitting there saying, oh, these big moments are happening, you're conditioning your mind to saying, oh, big moments happening, we're going to weekly dump and weekly level, weekly trend. Dude, there's always a weekly trend. There's always a weekly level. There's always a weekly reverse. There's always a legacy trend. And when those are broken, the next one is just right around the corner. And if the thing about the mind is, if we start looking for these critical injunctions, we'll start creating them out of thin air. And it's not that they won't be true. It's just your emotion will shroud the ones that are actually logical buying and selling spots. So I think it's pretty important to understand that, you know, with one day at a time, what we're talking about here, like, you can make a really, really good income very easily. You don't have to be like me. Maybe I've set the bad example by calling like the 64.6 and the 29.2 and the 4-hour dump. Like, I've called some of the wildest moments in crypto history. I've actually probably called them all for like 3-4 years straight. So maybe I've set a bad precedent too, as an example as to how you should trade. But, like, you know, realize that my expertise comes over a lifetime. It's not, you know, like, imagine trying to follow those footsteps. Like, holy shit, that would be possible. So maybe it's my fault setting a bad precedence that, you know, catching these extreme moments is what we have to do. But really, there's like a really easy way to make a great income in these fields. And yeah, maybe one day you can catch those crazy moments and get even more profits. But give me the choice between catching a top or taking a guaranteed dump a little lower, and I'll take the guaranteed dump just because the risk is lower. Now again, I've probably the reason why people are doing this, but I'm not saying people are doing it, but I just wouldn't want to have anybody misled into the idea that you have to catch the exact moments. Like, I'm very, very versed in this stuff, and even sometimes I miss them. So just, you know, a little bit of perspective goes a long way here, because we can focus on making an income. Okay, here's the thing. Catch this move with crazy leverage, 64.6, right? Catch that move with crazy leverage. Have the balls to hold it till here. Yeah, you just paid off your house. Catch the safer moments, which you don't really have to have balls. You just have to kind of use your brain and logic, and you can hold to the same spot and you still paid off your house. There's no difference. There's really no difference. So, like, why? You know, like, that's the thing about this move is it's holy shit, talk about risk. But yeah, if you catch it, great on you. Seems like Radu got a pretty good part of it, but other than that, I think there's like a smarter way to take trades, a more logical way in which we can take more guaranteed profit spots, and it's something WD is really good at. I see his name on the screen. He said the same thing. Don't take extreme moments. Take the obvious moments during your trading day. Throw consistent passes over time, not him. Yeah, exactly. This is exactly it. So yeah.
Right now, let's just take a trade. If it goes to here, if it goes to 61.46, yeah, hell, this is a good trade. But if we have to go do something else, if our time is up for the day and it's time to clock out, just get out. And who cares? You find the same level tomorrow. It won't matter. It doesn't matter. Again, you'll find it tomorrow, right? This is already tested. Yeah, I'll just go after this one. That looks good. Yeah, this is already tested too. This hold's already tested. It already took the move up. Yeah, go after this.
Think of a football game if you want an analogy. Football games are won, and we're talking about like football, like NFL football, not soccer. Think about football. Football games aren't won by throwing Hail Marys all day long. They're won by getting first downs and running 2 and 3 yards over and over and over for a grueling match where 10 yards at a time, you've made a first down, even if it's for a field goal. 10 yards at a time, small wins, smart calculated moves. The same thing with a football game. It's the same thing here, guys and girls. Smart calculated moves over a long period of time. Sure, you can throw the odd Hail Mary in an emergency situation, but like, that's, you don't go into the first quarter of a football game, first down, start throwing 80-yard passes unless you're, that doesn't win Super Bowls. That doesn't make legacies. That doesn't make champions. It's consistency over time, right?
Potentially ladder the move up. right? So it's just like, yeah. Kethma said, I'm loving this. Take so much stress out of everything that we do. Yep, absolutely, man. There's no reason to ever have, you'll burn out as a day trader. I've been doing this a long time. I know what burnout looks like. You'll burn out if you just constantly worry about all this ulterior information and outside of what we just look at today. Like, this is all that matters. Nothing else in here matters. God, we don't care if it goes to $1 million overnight. We just still log on. I've said this to you guys before. It goes to $1 million. Who cares? We just log on and make our money because we just trade the next move. Trade the next move. Just like yesterday, we traded this dump and no problem. It dumped. Now we're on to a new day. We made our money. We put it in the bank. We're on to a new day. You can make $300 a day if you want in these moves. Like, let's say we're trading with $100 and we were awake in trading and we took this trade. Okay, so let's just even use like an even sillier example. We took this trade and we saw, oh, failure. Treated this really poorly. We got here and we saw it go up to here 1%, and we're like, oh no, it's dumping. Let's get out. And we made 0.8, so we made $80. We use $100. We made $80 there. Move up completely, and we're like, oh crap, we screwed up. We missed our whole thing. But then we could have just taken this short, and we would have targeted maybe this level here and said, okay, well, it's going to probably drop to, this whole level right here. And so it's like, okay, cool. Let's try just, so we take this short because we were actually prepared this time. So we're like, okay, well, we made $80 today. Then what do we have here? Another 1.9. So let's just call it 1.5. Just round easy numbers. Let's just say we screwed this one up too. We really, donkeyed this one too in 1.5. So then we made another 80 and then another 80 and a 40. So 1.5. So it's 816. That's $200 we've made so far. And then we could have taken this short here and say we just exit it now and it's too early, and so we're up another $40. And it's like all we did was trade with $100, and we even left this one too early too. And we screwed up all three trades. Somehow we managed to screw up all three trades because we didn't have the right targets down low. So we literally screwed up three trades. We made $240 screwing up every single trade.
Volume's raised.
Yeah, guess what? Newsflash, it's like $100K a year. Like, if you do this 300 days a year, that's going to be close to like $100K a year, right? Like, it's like, you guys don't see trends on my chart. You guys don't see anything but a few simple hold levels. So it's just like, all I did was just make an example of some hold levels. And they're pretty obvious hold levels. I mean, this is nothing. There's no magic happening here.
I think this is a really good exercise to do. I think a really healthy thing that I constantly do is I look at my trades, and I after I'm done the trade, I go back and I look at where would I have actually sold this trade, right? And kind of put blinders on to everything else. Like, say, I don't know, say I took a long right here, right? Like, oh no, I missed the trade. Damn. So I had to get in on this hold level, and I got it on this hold level, and my target was here. Right? Say this was my trade. Well, that's a hell of a trade. Maybe that's a bad example. Let's go to a smaller time frame. We're just picking random spots. Here, okay, there's a hold level here. Oh, look at this hold level. It's been holding this move over time. So that's fantastic. We've got a trend right here. And say I got in this hold level right here, right? My target was this. Right? Target was that, and it goes over. Come on. You've got 1.5% there. Day's done. Looking back at your trades to see where you should have went, I think this is really healthy, because you can be mad that you weren't in the proper trade, because you can measure it from here to here and say, oh man, I missed 10%. But like, you really missed 10%? Like, were you really holding past this range right here? Would you have really held past this, or would you have set a target right here? I think this is a really healthy thing to do, because I think what a lot of people do, like, there's your hold level right there, very straightforward. Like, I think what a lot of people do is they just go, oh my God, I should have went from here to here. But you took 1% from this level to this level, so you can delete that. That's fine. That's gone. Would you have actually held to that point though? Or would you have been so excited to get 5% or 4% you would have gotten out there? Because I can tell you, I would not pass up like 12 grand for one day of work. Yeah, okay, fine. It could have been so much more, but would you have actually held that long? And then where does it stop? Like, where does it stop? Because then you could just say like, oh, well, why didn't you target this range? And then if that range breaks, well, like, why didn't you target this range? Like, you could just constantly create this trail of why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? So I think a really healthy thing is to go back and look at trades and say, like, yeah, I got in here and I sold for 1%. Oh, I could have got this. Would you really have gone that far? Would you not have just set a target and taken it here? Right? And then if that's the case, I think there's a very quick and clean answer here. If you're sitting here saying like, yeah, I actually would have let this ride out, then I think you instantly know that you're more of an investor slash swing trader, which if that's the case, you wouldn't be justifying 15-minute levels on these long-term holds. You would simply just go back to saying like, oh, I'm using a lower leverage. I want this level to hold because I think it's breaking the move. This level held. This one here didn't get very much. And then you have your reasonable target up there. And then you have like a trade where you're using less leverage, which is less risk, targeting a bigger time frame to go after that level. And you're doing more of a setup phase than an instant action phase. Like taking the 15-minute levels off of a little tiny range inside of here, you would have never gotten in here. Like you would have never used this 15-minute range because this is like instant action levels. It's called like an instant action level. Part of blueprint stuff that I haven't released yet. It's like instant action. 15-minute range creates a 15-minute level, should have its own time frame bind. And if you break above it, like taking maybe even the hourly level here would have been like, you know, pretty high. So then you'd go back to this and you'd say, oh, those are tested. It has to break over the reverse level, and then possibly it goes after the next reverse level, which is right here. Actually, it would be right here because it had broken. Then you'd end up in the same spot, but you couldn't use this range, so you couldn't use that. So you wouldn't have a spot to get in the trade anyways. You wouldn't be in from here. So this is a mismeasurement of the move. You wouldn't be in from here to here. Instead, you'd be in from maybe possibly this point to this point, and you'd already have lost it at 1.3 or 4%. I think it was 4.89. It was just rounded up to 4.9. You'd had already lost 1.4% right off the top. So whatever you made there in that trade, making that 1.4% from 15-minute range to level, you're losing it here anyways. So like, I think this is a good exercise and check for people to do, is that if you're going to use these lower time frame moves like 15.5, then you have to use lower time frame targets as well. And if you're wanting to go after these larger targets instead of measuring them and saying, oh man, I should have held, like where was your entry? Where could you have possibly considered entry on that trade? Like, I don't see where entry would have been possible based on a 15-minute level to target a 4-hour top of a range above reverse and also interior levels, and quite possibly trends too, and ladder points, break points, ladder range. Like, would you have even gone past this? Yeah, I suppose the level breaks and the range breaks. Oh, okay, fine. So then would you not have just targeted? Like, I think there's like just a misunderstanding, like a realization there that people don't really go and connect the dots and say like, okay, if we're using these short time frame levels, then we should have short time frame targets because they're high leverage trades, high action trades. They go from point to point very fast, and you can increase your leverage on those. But then to say like, oh, I should have held to up here. Well, where's the justifiable trade? The hold level right here? Well, shouldn't you have just gone down here? And like, then you just go into this rabbit hole of finding targets. So I think that's a good exercise for people to do, is when they're in a trade, instead of sitting there saying, oh man, I could have caught this top. Yeah, under what time frame can you justify that? What time frame is justifiable to catch this move? And then if that time frame is justifiable, like, where's your target? Like, where is it going? Like, even right now, wouldn't this kind of be the bottom of the move? Like, I think, break trend, hit this, and regain trend. Like, I guess you have to analyze your other, well, I don't guess, I know. You have to analyze the other information going on, but then wouldn't you just say like, oh, okay, 4-hour, you can easily see this is going to be the range of an interior time frame, where this is the hold level testing here, range here. So like, what are you at? This is already tested now. So actually the range is already tested and the interior time frame is already made. So your interior trend is already created. So the moment is already missed. Like, this is what I mean about, maybe you actually have to start at a 15 here. Nothing there. 5. There it is. Your interior trend right there. So I think this is like really important about one day at a time, is that we often look backwards at our trades and we say, oh man, if only I did this. But like, under what pretense is that a viable strategy? I've been talking about that a lot lately. If you haven't watched the blueprint sorry, not the blueprint, the what could possibly go wrong lesson that I published on Patreon. Watch it because I talk about strategy in there. And I think this is something that a lot of people are going to benefit from, is creating a strategy with their trades. So I'm starting to break that down in what could possibly go wrong, and I'll do a video on it in the future, but it's not coming out for a while because I got like a million other videos I need to do first. But like, you know, for our group anyways, I think creating these strategies is critical. Like it's like I said it before, it's like a boxer. Boxers throw punches all the time, but the winning punches are when they do footwork and think about how their feet are going to be organized first in order to land the best punch, right? It's trading strategy. Like, what are you doing in your trades? So I think it's super, like I said, I think it's super unhealthy to just sit there and say, oh, yeah, well, of course, this would have been a monster move if I had just held. Well, like, yeah, this is like kind of dummy mode common sense. Like, of course, dude. Like, that's silly to think otherwise. And time frame to time frame is your relevance. And if you're sitting, again, let's just repeat this one more time. If you're sitting there saying, oh, I should have targeted the 4 hour level, then you should not be taking 15-minute trades. Then you should not be taking, unless it's like combination justifiable. So you go back to this move right here. You go back to this 4 hour and you say, okay, we've got a 4 hour hold level right here. I want to be early bird special. Like I'm grandpa, I want early bird special. I do believe this level is going to hold. Can I start working down in time frames? Here's the hourly. Okay, could I get a little greedier? I'm buying the 4 and I want the 4 to hard close. So then the 4 reverse tests hard closes and you break interior trend. So this is justifiable, right? But that's justifiable from this buy price, not the 15-minute down here. Because that 15-minute, the trade exists. You can't sit there and take a 15-minute hold level and be like, oh yeah, I should have held till the daily. Like, fuck, are you kidding me, dude? Like, if that's the case, then why weren't you buying down here? So there's a strategy, right? And strategy is critical. Which I think, somebody said, oh yeah, ZJ, JSEC earlier said locking up 40 instead of 120 to 140. This is like directly applicable, right? And this is the directly applicable part of the move. And then it also helps you justify like what's going on in the trade as well, as where your exits should be. Unbelievable skill during a trade. Yeah, you could like create a skill tree. And what I mean by skill tree is you could create like you know how they have in video games, or it's like you have all these points, and you know as you level up, it goes into like different points that have different kinds of things. These are all skills that we use, by the way. These are all like skills that you have to master in order to get to like the perfect trade. So you could even just think of it like a skill tree. Like they're all different components to a trade, not just mark a hold level. Like for sure that works, but you know when you want to be a trader like as a career, there's different skills we use to justify this. I'm just going to catch up on chat real quick. I do exactly that. Enter on a low time frame, then begin to unreasonably justify and match a higher time frame. I mean, you can do it if you were sitting here saying, okay, oh, I want to enter the 4 hour, but I want to go greedier. Here's the hourly, here's the 15. You might have tried to enter trend, you might have missed, and the hourly might have hit. And the best you could hope for is the 4 hour. And that would be a recognition of the scenario where you have built out I think in this case, you would have to start this by saying, okay, we have a 4 hour hold level here. Here's a 4 hour time frame, okay? And this is what I mean by strategy. So you could actually, I'll just rewind this. This is pretty important right now. You could go like this and you could say, okay, we just developed a 4 hour hold level. We need to hold this in the future. So if we can kind of continuously hard close over this, there's a pretty good trade to be had here. So my strategy is to go after this 4 hour hold level. And this would be I don't want to say it would be premature, but it would be very early on in the move to say that, oh, this is going to hold, because you're still laddering the move. Like you could just go like this and you could go like this and say, hey, you haven't hard closed. So like almost magic has to happen in this moment. I've got a 4 hour hold level and I've seemingly created a 15-minute range. Okay, so everybody's with me so far. I've got a trend here. Trend could or might not break. We don't know yet. I've created what could be a 4 hour hold in the future. So like, what do I need to have happen? Can I enter this 15-minute yet? No, I don't think so. Like, look at your trend. How can you justify that? How can you sit there and say like, oh, and then you may even have this trend here, which is even a little steeper. So you could even go to like the lower time frame and use this trend, which may even put you like right here, right? Which I think you'd more likely be here. Anyways, combo, like you could go and do a bunch of trend work and find whatever justifiable piece. Like I think how we had it first was pretty perfect. I think right here, the queue of the queue of hard closes, I think you end up here from what it looks like for me without doing the work. And so you could sit here and say, okay, 4-hour hold level. So what do we need to have happen? The strategy is this. I have to start closing over top of the 4-hour hold level. We have to close over it high enough so that we can come back and back test it in the future. So the 4-hour hold level should be our final point of entry. Okay, so does that mean you're entering, like, isn't this just going to break down to here? What's the difference? Like, you just have a little range right here. Wasn't this like the same thing? It just has like a little interior range. This one breaks down. This had a little interior range. This one broke down. This had a little interior. So like, why would this one be any different? Well, it's not. It's not any different, right? So you have to break this trend. You have to close over top of this 4-hour. And so like, there's no real entry yet. There's no entry yet. Like, I don't see where it makes sense to have an entry. Like, holy shit, see what I mean? Like, you can't enter that 4-hour hold. You haven't even hard closed it yet. You could have justified the 15-minute, but like, oh my God, dude, that would be pretty crazy if you were justifying a 15-minute based on this. Is like, you got to have some pretty nutty intuition here to not be in from down here, but to actively take, like, the risk here is obnoxious. To sit here and say, I didn't take this because I wanted it to confirm, and this right here is telling me it's confirming. Yeah, okay, fine. You have a 4-hour hard close. Great. So like, to take that 15-minute range, yeah, you're out of your effing mind. And if you were to tell me, oh, I took that 15-minute range, I would just be like, well, why didn't you take this latter point? Why didn't you take the 4-hour hold? Why didn't you take the 29.2? Or whatever. Sorry, this is not 29.2, but the same trend that 29.2 would have had. And like, why didn't you take the stuff down here? Like, why are you waiting to here? If you're willing to take this 15-minute range, like, it's stupid. I don't need to explain why this doesn't make sense. Before the candle, right? So like, where's your entry here? So what could you do? You could say, okay, we've got a 1-hour level down here. That could be entry, but that's entry to say that I believe it's going to test and bounce and hold the 4. So then your target would be up here. So then you could sit here and say, this there's a possible entry here. I don't think if, like, and like, that's a really good trade. Oh, cotton, go deeper in the move. Well, I don't really think that makes sense to go deeper in the move, because the only spot that would be deeper in the move would have been here. You have a 1-hour untested that you don't know if you're even going to hold this move yet. Like, you're still laddering. So like, in what world, when you're laddering against this, does this 15-minute make sense? You have 15, 1, 4. Walk forward a candle. Okay, you're laddering the range. Back test the 4. In what world did it make sense where you haven't hard closed over this 4, but it makes sense to also take this 15? Like, isn't that the same thing that happens on like all time frames? Like, oh, you're a ladder, and then the moves just break down. So in what sense does it can you even take this 15? You can't. You can't take the 15. But what you could do, because that's already tested, is you could say, okay, if the hourly holds and we start hard closing over top of the 4-hour, we can target this trade up here. But you're creating a strategy off a larger trade. You're creating it off of a 4-hour time frame, not these interior components. So then when you're in this trade and you're looking at this and you go back to the 4-hour and you're saying, okay, we're gonna start to hard close over this. This is potentially our last entry. That's it. I don't have any hard closes over this yet. Still don't have a hard close. I don't even think you have a hard close yet. You don't. So that would have even been kind of considered, yeah, this is a little risky. It's not like, this would be the spot that you entered. This is what would hold up that 4-hour move. So that's kind of justifiable, right? Like, you're starting to close, and if it holds, you're going to create that 4-hour. That's justifiable. And you create another hourly. So now your choice is, do you retest the 4 or are you laddering the 1? Break this move. Don't have the 4-hour complete, but like, again, justifiably, where could you even enter this trade? Okay, maybe right here. What does this look like? 4-hour is still not closed. Jesus. Okay, and the next candle closes it. not a hard close. Your 4 hour, 4 hour hold. Yeah. A break trend. The 4 hour holds and hard closes. So like, I don't see how you would justify entry in any other way on this trade other than possibly this hourly level, because I don't think you can do it down here. Possibly this hourly with the presumption that the 4 hour can hard close over trend. So this is what I mean about strategy. Like, you can't be entering these ultra small time frames being and saying like, oh man, I should have just held. Like, yeah, if in a perfect world, like how many times have you guys entered a trade and been like, oh, here's a range. Yeah, in a perfect world, it holds and just continuously moves up, but that's not what happens. A perfect world is not a perfect technical analysis world. That's your perfect world, which is out on planet 9. That's your perfect world, not the perfect world. The perfect world is entering here and taking it to the top. That's the perfect world, right? There's a difference between your perfect world and the perfect world. Exits are the problem. My entries are great, but then I always want more. Instead of getting out, I end up losing some or all parts of profit. Perhaps at a minimum, take partial profits at near target. The rest is a position swing. I wouldn't do that. Something it seems caught in. Yep. Could be a short-term solution while you sort out your MA. The explanation on creating strategy and larger stuff instead of interior components. It's not reasonable to think that you could have had an entry here on the 15-minute. Like, that's not even a reasonable scenario that you've created. You know what this is? This is creating like a scenario where you're going to be a failing trader for your life, because you're going to constantly get into these positions where you think things are breaking up. Like, there's a bias here. There's a bias that you create when you say, oh, look at this range. Like, yeah, it's a great range. You've got, you know, the range is holding, but anything above just taking scalps inside of that little interior range, like, I don't, like, what are you doing? What are you trying to justify, like, this crazy long-term trade over this range? Like, why weren't you just in here and then, oh, sorry, right here, even the first hold level, even further than that, like, look at right here, and then look at right here, and then look at right here, and then look at the backside, breaks over the backside, which is your origin point right here, like origin breakout, right? Like, so then why not enter on the holding of whatever this is, right? Like, this holds, it's about to break an origin, right? You're just squished between a hold level and an origin after a big dump that just laddered the move. So ladder here to here, there's the origin of the move right here. There you go. Sorry, it's pretty zoomed in. I'm having, like, I got morning eyes still. Break level that's tested creates an origin for breakout. Like, what's wrong with this? How do you justify a 15-minute level here? Like, this to this is justifiable, and your work is done. You're like, that's a lot of money, dude. That's like $4,000 if you're using max leverage, and it's so simple. It's just so easy, and it's just like, well, there's like one simple trick, but how can you justify this as a big 10% move? You can't. So having like a realistic set of expectations, this is a bias. This will get you liquidated if you start trying to trade large moves off interior ranges. So if you learn anything from here, learn this. Large moves off interior ranges are a bias that will get you liquidated. I'm going to pin that, because if you learn anything from what I'm saying is that, like, do not create a bias on interior ranges, because the only thing you can do with an interior range is just play the interior components of it, and that's it. You just walk away. 15-minute candle on the 28th of September. Couldn't it be more obvious? A 15-minute couldn't be more obvious. 28th of September. Right here, yeah. Oh, this one here. Yeah, I mean, like, you've tested the 4 hour. You're laddering the 4 hour test off a 15-minute hold, and you're laddering up hold levels off that. Like, WD is right. Like, this couldn't be more obvious. Like, look, you've tested this level here. Where's your next level? It's right there. It's the reverse level. The reverse level holds. Where's your next level? Right here. Your next level holds. That holds through the test. Then you've got this here, which doesn't even test the body, it just tests the wick, and it sits there and holds. its own interior range. Like WD's right. This couldn't be more obvious. Like this couldn't be more obvious. Small time frame, it would have been this to this on the 5, I believe it is. That looks like a 5-minute. Sorry, right here. That looks like a 5-minute interior range right there. That looks like 5 minutes. So yeah, it's like WD's right. Like it couldn't be more obvious. Like hold after ladder after ladder after reverse test ladder, finally ladders. If it, like it could, he's right. It just like it couldn't be more obvious. So that pin, just large moves of interior ranges are a bias that will get you liquidity. Just remember that, because it is critical information. You cannot create a strategy off of this for long term. This is a short term strategy. This is justifiable as long term because look at the theory behind it. Test, deep dive again, ladder, hold level, ladder, retest. Yeah, okay, this makes sense as a long term strategy. And it's a long-term move. It's perfectly explainable. It's not any kind of magical information. It's not any kind of, it's the same thing that happens down here. Look, range, deep dive, ladder, goes, trend, test. Like this is a viable long-term strategy because it's long-term development. This is a viable long-term strategy because it's long-term development. So an interior range, like where is that justifiable? How is that justifiable, or how is both not only just justifiable but also viable? Like how is that reasonable? And we're like in the same part of the move right now. Like how is it reasonable to take a short right now to justify a long-term piece? We're just not there yet. We might develop it, but it's just like it's not there yet. If you continuously ladder off of this for like the next, what I could see happening on Bitcoin's chart is I could see like a this trend here to this trend here, and there being like this long-term kind of battle between these levels. That's what could happen. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying that I could see that as like a reasonable outcome as the Bitcoin just creates this long-term whatever before it makes up its mind, and then it's going to have a massive move in either direction. That's a viable long-term strategy with long-term outcomes and long-term implications. So yeah, just very important information. And we're talking about 1 day at a time. You create your strategy. Also, not only 1 day at a time, but pull that theory apart 1 day at a time. Analyze one time frame to itself. Right? Like just a deeper analytical thought. Take the theory and pull it apart 1 day at a time. Okay, go down to time frames. So what we're talking about 1 day at a time. What do you accomplish in 1 day? Well, what can one time frame at a time accomplish? Right? So you're taking that theory and you're pulling it apart to further compound the knowledge that's in itself.
There's procedural analysis happening here. There's some technical analysis, but mostly this is procedural. So this is how I made it as a day trader. Is I wasn't always as good as I am. I wasn't always able to catch 6 and 7 and 800% a day. I wasn't always as good. When I first started, it was my success didn't come from being a high level trader because I had to reverse engineer this stuff. Over how many years and
I
years
agree,
and years
WD.
of
5-minute
experience,
charts
I had
expecting
to
4
figure this stuff out
results.
by reverse engineering it. But what
That's the
carried me was
emotion
procedural
triggers. Yep.
analysis.
Absolutely.
So this is why it's so important.
Couldn't agree more.
This, anybody listening today, procedural analysis will carry you until your technical analysis can allow you to have better decisions and use more amounts of money.
Too.
But procedural analysis can build you a career, right? Because you can just make money every single day as long as you understand how to do it. When I was starting, bankroll management and understanding how to create something where I could just make money every day and just put it in the bank every day to, pay groceries, pay rent, do all these things, that was important until I got to that point. And we used about the simplest example we could here, using only positions of $100 a day and $100 a day on 100x. That's what our maximum risk tolerance was. And we still managed to come out with like 200% screwing up every single trade. It doesn't take long before you take 100 and put it, make it $200. $200, and a couple months later, now you're using $500, and then all of a sudden you're making, instead of a couple $1,000s a month, you're making a couple tens of thousands of dollars a month, right? So like procedural analysis is crucial. Project X, you ask when you should be careful about knowing where trends are, so you don't get caught by some powerful ignition. Today has almost nothing to do with technical analysis, so I won't tackle that. That's a different ballpark completely. There's future of trading knowledge, which allows you to kind of do what I've done on the screen today very simply, very easily, redundantly every single day. And then there's blueprint, or sorry, butterfly effect. Blueprint equally as important. Blueprint is crucial. Blueprint is a lot of stuff like this. And then there's butterfly effect, which is more tackling, those things where you guys want to know the exacts. That's not a 1 minute answer. That's like a 40 lesson course, not a 1 minute answer. Not something I'll tackle. Maybe we should just be careful about knowing where trends are. Be careful until you're at that level. Be careful, because you can trade information that you think is relevant, but if you don't understand what it's communicating to you, it's almost pointless, right? Like it's almost pointless to trade that information, because you're just kind of hoping at that point. You have like a trend marked and you're like, oh, is this right or not? I hope it's right, so let's try to trade it. That sounds like a recipe for disaster to me, because all I did was just mark some hold levels we know are to be true, right? I just marked some, what do we know is true about these, that they're hold levels and they're untested. Okay, well, yes, this is true, so we can take a trade there. So I just be careful about trying to like guess information. That would be my advice on that question. Yeah, crazy times. I think that's why it was so important to have this workshop, because this is really like a big piece of starting to unlock an income for people. So I think there's a mix of traders. I think there's people who are aspiring to make this their career. And I think half of the people here already have been able to take FOT and all this stuff and are making a career income already. So this is kind of just, no matter what stage of trading you're at, this is like, okay, it's time to level you guys up. It's time to show you how I trade and how real day trading is done. Like, we call it day trading for a reason. Trade what's in the moment, and that's it. I think there's, no matter where you're at in your trading journey, this is crucial, because to give you guys a bit of inspiration now, maybe we talked about some very scaled down spots of okay, profits. When you're using, say, 100x on $2,000 or $2,500, you look at this and it's like, wow, there's $7,500 to be made here, and there's $7,500 to be made there, and then another 5,000 to be made here. So in a few simple moves on the chart today, there was like $12,000 of profits. This isn't that far fetched, because there are people who are trading this type of money in this chat right now. What does that look like if you work 300 days a year? $4 million a year? Talk about inspiration. What if you only used what if you only used $500, right? So what if instead of 12,500 and using the maximum sized positions for kind of a default account, and you just took, maybe we talked about, we didn't make, maybe we had an off day, and so we didn't make the 3 here and the 2 there, and that was only 2 moves. Actually, there's quite a few moves in this trade. There's actually a lot. There's probably about 15% you could have made in here if you had caught every piece of the move. And you'll have days like that where you catch every single piece, and it's like, wow, I caught it all today. On an off day, you'll catch
Yeah, it's normal, Richard.
15% of it, which is 200%. So say you were trading with $500 and you only got 2 1% trades, and so $1,000 times 300, that's 300 grand still. Even only using a $500 position, if you want inspiration, financial inspiration anyways, that is, on using the most scaled down version of just day-to-day grinding like this, you're making just under 100K a year. Making, I think we had 90K by using $100. If you use $500, you're making like 300K a year. And this is how we start. This is how we start to build our empire, not the final form, right? So this is how we start. So you just keep that in mind. Like I said, there's people in here who are using $2,500 positions, and if they only caught a few percent today, and they do this every day, that's like over $3 million a year. Like this is money that professional athletes make, right? So that's what I mean. Like, there's one step at a time. and you guys will build an empire. And that's how it happens, one step at a time. Build an empire one step at a time. If you lose money in a trade, it doesn't matter. Just focus on the next one. Let it be. Only ever trade with what you're willing to lose. If you're only willing to lose $100 on each trade, put it on the trade, trust your technicals, move on. The more levels I put on my chart, the more stressful it felt trading. Absolutely. That couldn't be more true. Overload, right? Information overload. The only thing we ever need to know is this. This is all we ever need to know. So you'd go here and you'd be like, wow, that's such a tiny piece. Yeah, for sure. That's all we need to know. So it's just such a tiny piece. Imagine getting in this trade or yesterday from this trade. That's bonus money. That's just like bonus. That's bonus pay for just making a smart decision, right? Because all we ever need is this. And it happens. You can see that on the charts. It happens every single day. Crude oil. Like I was looking at charting crude oil. Believe this one. Yes, even crude oil, like the levels are, it's all the same. This is stock markets, literally all the same. So when you look at this move, it's just like trading in the moment. You have your two levels, the same thing. You're going to hit this level, test it, move up, have another move up off this to that range there. You're going to come pull back. It's all the same. And this is crude oil. So, I was doing this for a company. Same kind of ranges that everything is, the world is testing right now. There's the same thing. And there's crude oil over the course of a couple of days. There's like 30-something% in here to be made, 25% there. And then there's another easy 10% trade on crude oil. The Dow, same thing. It's like, it's all the same. Not that guy, but this is, fine. That's fine. But I'm sure there's a different DJI chart I use. Yeah. So DJI, same exact thing. Like it's a very specific level. It's all the same crap. Perfect.
Catch up on chat right now real quick. Profit cats, but what profit caps? Profit cats. But what exactly do you mean when you say justify certain time? Justify as in, does it make sense? Justifiable? If that level's justifiable, like does it make sense? Time frame that's relevant. The hold level or the range? Both. It depends on the move. Sometimes you can have interior ranges. You can't justify large time frames. Hold levels can ladder ranges, and ranges can deep dive hold levels. So it can be either or. Normal to have difficulties for the first year and a half of your trading. Oh yeah, dude, it takes years. It can take. I just released a TikTok on this.
Right. So I do this video for some people who ask for help on different things. So, what are you looking at? Oh, look at that hold level. Very easy decision. Hey, we got an untested hold level. Let's just throw some beans on it, right? Or whatever you want to call it. Untested hold level right here. Hey, he's made 8% in the stock markets. You know how much money that is in the stocks when you start putting contracts on it? That's like unbelievable money. Oh yeah, you just go to the next one and there's another 20%. So it's like all the same, guys. This is one of those kick yourself moments. It seems so simple. Yeah, absolutely. It is simple, but at the same time, not really. This took me years and years and years to perfect this stuff. So while it may seem simple, I think that's because I'm a good teacher. I don't necessarily think it's because it's simple. I think I just teach it very well. Don't discredit it or yourselves, right? Like it's not simple. It's actually not simple at all. I make it seem simple, but again, that's because I've got so much experience teaching now that I can help you guys understand this stuff very quickly and very fast. When you overanalyze something, it makes it so much harder to see what's happening. Not that this is all simple. Yeah, exactly. That overabundance of information is good, but it's almost like you start marking on all these levels. On my charts, when I'm day trading, the only thing I will even look at on these charts, one event out here, and the next event up here, which is right here. That's it. That's all I care about. Just this is my range for the day. This is like, oh, if this probably won't happen for a week, and this probably won't happen for a few days. What am I supposed to do if that stuff's not happening? If that stuff's not going to happen, like this probably isn't going to happen for another week. And this probably won't happen for a few days. Maybe it happens today. I don't know. I guess it depends on the architecture of the chart and how it unfolds for the rest of the day today, right? Maybe I can help it move here if I take enough good trades and short it in the right spots with a bunch of people, or like a bunch of people short it, and I help and join in, right? If I do my part, I guess as they say, do your part. What do I need to know outside of this? I don't care. And then fine. So it doesn't hit this. I go to sleep for tonight. It hits this level. It has a crazy bounce. I miss that. It comes down here, and then we'll be here. And then I'll just create a new range to target and trade. And I'll just create this range, and I'll say, okay, well, we have an untested level right here. Oh, that looks good. Okay, so what do we have here? Yeah, I don't try.
I think this is important to realize that what I'm doing right now in the moment is I'm creating a strategy for if this breaks. Something I've been doing for years, and video I released on Patreon, what could possibly go wrong, talks about creating strategy, and it's exactly what I'm doing here. Is I'm saying, okay, let's create a strategy for if this breaks, because whatever we're looking at now, it doesn't really matter anymore. Whatever expectations we have, let's create our next strategy. So I think this is important.
Trust this.
It's important to create all these umbrella strategies, like what I did in that video.
Tested. You see, we got a tested level right there. That's true. I don't trust that anymore. Now, so we just go right here. Yeah, maybe on a smaller time frame, it's a valley, but yeah, this is a nice little 4 hour right here. Yeah, this is a good one. So, there's my range. Very simple, very stress free, very tactile on my screen, right? Right there. Pretty clean level. Nothing's touched it, just like this one's a pretty clean level. So over time, I expect this and then this. But these are moments where it's like, okay, I expect this, but let's make money on it, right? So it's just like one at a time. But for now, let's not even mark this because I just really don't care. I really don't care to have anything outside of this range. Everything else is like, it's good. Like, fine, mark your levels like we did before. And I had all the levels marked and I walked you guys through it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I go here and do this and mark that. There was a point to that. It's like, okay, we mark these levels. What's the point? Why are we even marking them? They don't help.
This is what people never really understood about one day at a time. Or I don't know if it's they didn't understand it. I think people overlooked it. Is that, part of one day at a time is just creating strategies. And like one day at a time is perfect. It's okay. The beginning idea of, okay, let's just trade one part of the move, one range. Really, when you break it down, one day at a time is strategies, right?
Us make money. It's really good analytically to understand what the larger events are happening on the chart. So yeah, okay, fine. We do need these big boy trends. Like, oh, we needed this big boy trend right here to see that we were losing this one. Yeah, we do need some of these bigger events for sure. So we need one up here and we need this one down here. Other than that, I don't see why we would need anything. Not to make money anyways, to understand analytically what's happening on this chart. Yeah, we need an overabundance of information, but we don't make decisions with money on that. So it's like a different state that we enter. One is a making money state, or one is a pitch where we make money, right? Like it's the tone of what we do is making money, and the other one is analyzing the charts. They're two separate things, right? We don't mark a million levels on our charts to sit there and say, well, if there's only two events ever happening, guys, think about it for a second. Like if there's only two events ever happening, even right now in this moment, so that's the tested level right there. So okay, that would have been perfect re-entry. That's like really nice. Damn, we missed that. No problem. Maybe we can even catch a trade while we're doing this here. So we got to find like kind of like the next untested level here, right? So then like we can go super greedy and we can do like this one right here, like that one right there, right? So we're just gonna take this level here. And it's red. I don't care what color it is. It doesn't matter to me because I only ever use the next level anyway. So this is gone. This is gone. I don't need that. I don't need that. This is tested. This is tested. So then really like, what are we looking at here? Let's kind of go here and there's nothing inside of there. Yeah, we're probably just pulling back right now. Maybe we could like come up to this range here. Some of these like 30-second hold levels, maybe. I don't know about that. Maybe like here, we come back up to here and then dump. I suppose right here is not bad too. So it would be next here. Let's try to find what's next on the top side. Nothing really, like nothing. Like we already hit this, right? Like there's no decision to be made. We already hit this. Why are we going after it again? Yeah, like this right here. And if this one collapses, which I fully expect it to, I'll go after this here. It's kind of like two trades. 1, 2. So where will this bounce to? Kind of like a little 1 minute hold in here, something like that. So that's like kind of my next trade, something like this. From here to here. or possibly, so there's 0.37% here. It's not that much. 0.6 here. Yeah, looks good. 60% off a little couple minute trade. Yeah, right there to there. It was a perfect trade. Let's see if it works.
I think at this point, I just kind of sit here and watch the trade.
Yeah, it was touched already too. Oh, you're right. Son of a gun. So, I mean, this trade was already taken too. Okay, so I wonder why Okay, well, I mean, I'm not charting on XBT to go trade on Binance. So if this was already touched, I just simply wouldn't buy it. So if that's already touched, it means whatever's inside this range right here is actually the untested level. What's it called? I'm not using XBT to trade Binance. I'm not using tested level right here. So it looks like it kind of targeted something right here.
Right? Okay.
This is like
Probably
the
a
higher
3-minute
time frame
backside.
hold, I guess.
Okay,
The 3
that's
minute.
fine. Creates the hold level for the next part of the move.
But
Pretty
again, when I'm
straightforward.
trading Binance,
If you haven't seen it, Richard, I'm going to toss this one on.
Day trading is super easy.
Let's take our break. Take our break, and I want to press play on this, and whatever plays after my video, I have no control over or no idea what it will play. So this is for Richard. You asked, is it normal to have difficulties for the first year and a half of your trading journey? Yes, and before we get into that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about, before we go on a break here, I'm just going to talk a little bit about strategy again. And I think a lot of people didn't realize one day at a time videos, get into a first opening section here.
the level
One day at a time, these videos, they didn't realize that, you know, what I'm doing is using like strategy. Like I'm sure they do. I don't need to say the words, hey, use a strategy for it to be quote unquote obvious, or you know, hey, this is a strategy. Like one day at a time is a strategy. Everything we do in day trading is a strategy. And it's why I released that video, like I said, on Patreon, where what could possibly go wrong talks specifically about creating a strategy, because right now that seems to be like a lot of people's roadblocks. There's a lack of vision, which also leads to a fear of failure. Like I've talked about that recently, and there's a lack of vision that people have. And part of the way to fix a lack of vision is to create strategies, because creating strategies starts to overextend your mind into all the possibilities that could happen. Like, look at all these levels I marked today. Like, I got a 4-hour reverse level. I got the weekly trend. I got the interior range. I've got the 1-hour hold level. I've got the ladder point. I've got the I don't have the 1 minute deep, the 5 minute right here, the 5 minute deep dive, and so forth. And I've got all these levels. And how many trades am I going to take? Like, how many levels did I mark here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And possibly I wouldn't even want to say this 5 minute ladder to move perfectly. I want to see this 5 minute tested next, which it is I want to see this 5 minute tested next. Son of a this test, which possibly means this one, and this 5 minutes tested. You know what? Okay, so actually this 5 minute is the test, which okay, this is all creating a strategy, right? And when you create strategies on your chart, well, that 5 minute example didn't work very well, because the trail of reverse levels was like tested throughout the entire chart. So that's quite okay. Maybe there's actually, I could go to the 15 minute now and look for the 15 minute reverse that could ladder the move. So let's add that as well, because there's a 15 minute reverse here that could ladder. So then we're going to mark this one gray. And like this is creating a strategy around the charts. And this is where fear of failure comes from. And one of the things that I see is most important with this group, and how I direct the content that's coming out, is directly relatable to this group. And fear of failure and a lack of strategy is what I see. So what could possibly go wrong just kind of outlines the most recent episode on Patreon. Watch it if you haven't, because it's directly relatable today. It outlines exactly what you should be looking at. And one kind of strategy that you could use, where you can create a Pandora's box off an umbrella of moves, And that will actively participating and doing that will get rid of fear of failure, because no longer do you have a lack of vision by creating strategy. So a fear of failure is directly curable by having strategy. So that's the one-to-one correlation for those of you who have a fear of failure in the moves or are scared to jump in. Create strategies, because that tackles the onset, which is a fear of failure, is a lack of vision. So that directly tackles it right there. Now you have a ton of vision in your trade. You have all these levels marked. You just need to decide which is the right one to take, where emotion and logic comes into play, and you're into other mental analysis cues. So I do plan a lot of the content right now coming out in the foreseeable future. So for the next month or 2 months or 3 months, I'm not talking about our mentorship lessons. I'm talking about the content that I release to the public is largely going to be strategy, okay, and a lot of MA, because marking these levels, people can follow this. They might not know reverse levels yet, but you guys will know reverse levels in about a month or two, because reverse levels will come out on butterfly effect, and I don't know, it's about 8 lessons away or so. And before I get into butterfly effect 2 in the future, which that day is yet to be decided by me. Before I get into that, Butterfly Effect 2 Chronicles, which is part of what I'm doing now, is releasing all this material on different topics, like how to create a perfect stop loss, how to use strategy in trades, how to train your mind to see the right information. It's really weaponizing the things that I've taught you guys what to do. So like fear of failure, there's one of your answers right there. And I'm going to continue making material on fear of failure. And creating strategies is like something everybody should always be doing. You're taking these trades. They can create a strategy, create all the levels, create all the scenarios, and then pick your level that makes the most sense. And fear of failure goes away completely, because you no longer have a lack of vision. You're not information seeking the perfect level. Like I told you guys this last week, where I see fear of failure the most in students is ultra intelligent people, right? Who are looking for the exact moments, the exact reasons, instead of having a higher amount of vision in the trades, which should take away that fear of failure. But that fear of failure is also onset by people who need this hyper over the top. And we need to move it to here. This hyper over the top, and even possibly right here. And possibly the reverse here, which could be, yeah, I think this is, that's it, right? Like hyper intelligent people are looking for the exact moment, the perfect reason, the one of moment, and then fear failure comes in from this over analyzing of day trading charts, and this hyper accelerated finding the exact, needing to know perfect scenarios. So there is no perfect scenarios in day trading, because while we find the most extreme moments, it always changes. So there's no like one perfect moment, and strategy mixed with mental analysis will make you guys 10 times the traders you were yesterday to tomorrow, by implementing strategy and by me teaching you guys more about strategies. And strategy isn't as simple as it sounds. Strategy is not just marking. There's a lot that we need to learn about strategy. Strategy is not this linear term where we just say, oh, the strategy is to mark all these levels and then pick the right one. Yes, that is a strategy, but that's not the all-encompassing definition of strategy. That doesn't even amount to half. I don't even know if it amounts to a quarter. Probably amounts to 1/4 of the puzzle. You're talking about strategy by knowing all your technical analysis and marking them on it. That amounts to, I would say, 25%. So there's so much more to talk about when we use that term strategy. And when you combine strategy and mental analysis, that's really like the cusp of blueprint, right? Like that's the cusp of your procedural analysis layer. Those are the final forms of it, where you're able to actually confidently take these things. It's a part of blueprint. I don't know if I would actually say it's the final form, but I would say it's the next step for traders in here. So I'm going to leave that talk on strategy there. We're going to take a small break. Richard, you asked about how long should it take for day trading. I'm going to let you watch this video, because I don't know if you've seen it.
Day trading is super easy.
Other people can watch this as well. It's kind of a comedy take, but I'll leave this on. I'm going to go get my drink refill, take a quick washroom break, and we'll get back to it. Okay.
I could probably walk in and master it. Day trading is super easy. I could probably walk in and master it in 2 weeks. Yeah, okay, dude. So this is the thing. This is why 99% of day traders fail. If not 99, like even more than 99. We're talking like 99.9% failure rate here. Most people fail in day trading because they have this exact same mindset where they refuse to do any hard work. What they do is they just go and they try to find some shortcut, some indicator garbage that doesn't work, some moving averages, Elliott wave, some of this trash, all this garbage people are spewing out there that doesn't work. And then those people, it's like a magic trick, man. They start clicking buy short, long leverage. They enter any trade. It's like a magic trick, dude. Your account balance turns into my account balance, because this is how it is, man. 99% of people will fail. And if not 99%, even more. And there's a right way to do it and the wrong way to do it. Imagine thinking that a field where you could make over $1 million a year is just something you can walk into, snap, snap, bang, bang, take over, dude. No, it doesn't work like that, man. Doctors, they go to school for what, 7, 8, 9 years? Lawyers, 7, 8, 9 years. Architects, blah, you name it. What do they make? Like 100, 200K, 300? Maybe the best of them make $500,000 a year. That's it. Day traders, we make $1 million, 10 million. Some of us make 50, $100 million a year. Imagine thinking that it's just so simple that the highest paying income in the world could just be done in no time flat. And then ask yourself, geez, does this make sense that somebody who could make $1 million plus a year to start can just walk on in and take a course for 2 weeks and just conquer the world? No, dude, it takes years, man. It takes like a lifetime of practice. It takes thinking. It takes strategy. It takes optimizing your mind. It takes waking up early for years on end. It takes grinding. It takes absorbing courses like they're going out of style. And yeah, there's a wrong way to do it and a right way. And the right way is go take my courses. They're all online free. They're all on YouTube, dude. You can go take them. You can learn it all. You don't have to pay a single cent. You just have to take your brain and actually use it and apply it. And you have to study for years and years and years and grind and practice. And then, yeah, maybe you can make $1 million a year. But to think you could just walk on in and follow some kind of strategy or pay for like $500 for one of these TikTok courses, dude, what are you smoking, dude? What's wrong with your brain, man? How do you think people make $1 million a year? It's some hidden secret until you magically stumbled along the one person selling it. Like you found water in a desert. Dude, what kind of dumb thinking is this, man? What do you on about? What are you thinking? So this is why 99% of people fail. And hey, if you want to, like, this is good because those people, they fuel the real day traders, and their money in their accounts turn into day traders' money in day traders' accounts. So keep doing it, keep being dumb, and you'll be stuck forever losing money. Or you could actually just go and learn it. Go on my YouTube. It's all free, dude.
Or anything like that. It wasn't hidden messages or meaning. Just a good overview of how long it takes. Yeah, it could take years. But rightfully so, given our income. That one guy mastered OT in a week. Yeah. God, what's his name? I don't really remember. Solomon, I think it was. All imprinted in your minds. It was on repeat. Yeah, keeper. It's why we're able to make money. People like that. So, don't be upset that not everybody wants to learn. More bads, the more money. Okay, let's get on to the video.
Level will be, okay, how can I say this? The level will be the same. The price will not. Okay, so for example, okay, right here, 6184 is our level on Binance. Okay, let's go to XBT real quick. BXBT is the same thing as XBT, but this is the BitMEX chart. Okay, so this is what BitMEX uses for their contract. So this is like XBT, but the contract version. So then we would go here and we would say, okay, where is this level? So we're going to find the actual valley. So let's go to the same timestamp. Here it's 824. Let's do this quickly.
I don't really know if there's any point in this. I think I'm just talking about XBT. What I'm going to do
62
is fast forward this a bit.
So let's see if it does.
Important to keep it in the video, but not important for
SPY, SPX. Okay, so let's talk about gaps in the market, traditional stock stuff. So this is something that a lot of people talk about saying like, oh, there's gaps in the market. It makes it hard to trade. I don't think this is necessarily coming from you. It's something that has been pushed down people's throats, and they're like, oh, we don't understand the gaps. Well, no, I mean, you're talking about, the knowledge that I teach and the stuff that I know is known by a handful of people around the world, right? People make sense of what they have to. So, oh, gaps in the market affect it. Like, no, not at all. I mean, I just did this on the fly, and it's the exact same stuff we were talking about today. And it's like, oh, you see it. Like, how close was this, right? Like, oh, look at the 4-hour hold. It's just kind of like people
talking about market gaps. I don't think these are important either for our lesson today.
Caution people to be careful because, it's a long journey to actually figuring out this stuff. mark some of these like really great levels and just take like $50 trades. You don't have to make money, because this is what I tell the mentees. I tell them this exact sentiment. I say this to them. I say, okay, I don't care if you guys make money or not. Despite what you guys pay to be here, I don't care if you guys make money. Okay. Let me make that clear. I don't care if you make money.
Let's keep going.
As long as we're not
Just
losing,
like,
don't take trades, we're not losing money. And the small couple trades we do, we're just building slowly. But the worst thing that can happen is you start losing bank accounts, you start losing
get
bank
knocked out before you can start.
in day
Everybody's heard
trading,
this
okay?
a million times. I don't even know if this video is important.
Your income
I
is
think
not
we
a
can just move
staircase
on.
as a day trader. Your income doesn't kind of go up over time. Maybe in some cases
we've
it
talked
will.
about
Okay,
this,
fine.
like,
For some
before. We
people, it
don't
does.
need to
Very, very, very powerful people in the world. And then this,
go over this unless
the best
people
of the
want me
best
to
of
go
us,
over this.
right?
I don't.
There's
a
a
lot of
reason.
value here.
So it's like, don't expect to
Talking
make
about
anything.
where the
Expect
income
to get to this point.
exists and
Do
how to
what you
get
have to do to get to that point. Because if
better
you quit,
income.
you're gone.
Day trading,
You
which I don't really think is.
it
I've
becomes
talked about this to
a
death.
formula. You just have to learn it, right? Now, of course, there's a mental. I just lost 10% before I could have made 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or 90. It's like, oh, that's beautiful.
Yep, I agree.
We just screw that.
There's
one
no
up.
value
And
here
then
to
it's
talk
just
about.
like,
This
wow,
is kind of just
fine. If I miss it, yeah, so like it would have been right here, right?
important facts.
That's the level that
about
got hit. So that's
charts,
the first
but
one
not
I had marked, 62.28, right?
stuff that we actually need to.
What if you could get your hands on one?
Hey, the heck is that? Stop loss guide. Why would it go to that next? So we're at 17. So we have to go here. This will be one of them. Need to find 18.
The level will be.
Oh man, I'm really lazy. I just want to find it in here. And there we go. Perfect. Some things it's okay to be lazy. Just very motivational. Yeah, it's really good stuff, but it's not. It's stuff we've talked about. It's not anything that we need.
Okay, so what?
So we're going to talk about active and passive contracts. So let's get any strategy talk out of the way now. I do want to get through active and passive contracts today. So any strategy talk, and I'm going to release content about this in the near future here. But any final comments about what we've learned? I guess the way they would say it is speak now or forever hold your peace. Yeah, I think it's. I don't really know if there's anything to talk about with it. I'll give you guys a minute to type in chat if you want. Otherwise, if there's no chat comments, we'll just continue on. Which there's probably not going to be any chat comments. I think we did a pretty good job. I don't think there's any confusion around strategy. I think there's going to be a lot of questions like, how do I create a strategy? But that'll come in the future. I'll release content about that. I just do like a stop gain, lock up profits, walk away if your target is missed. Typing. Boogie.
What we haven't talked about is what's called active and passive. I guess active and passive range. Not active and passive ranges, but I guess you would call them. I always have to think of names for this stuff. What do I call them? I call them active positions and closing positions. So that's what we're going to call them. Active positions versus closing positions.
Ended up changing it to
So
active and passive in
an
this
active
lesson.
position is something that actively is entering a new position. So this has to do with how you see moves break down. The degradation of something where you see these kind of big moves like this, and you go to these smaller time frames, and you can see these larger moves down.
It's funny that Boone, you asked this question because this is going to be relevant to this lesson. I'll come back to your question. I said stop game, but I'll also come back to it
In the charts. So when we talk about active ranges, or sorry, not active ranges, active positions and closing positions.
So active and passive contracts. Let's just start this off by identifying that this is going to be under the umbrella of strategy. Okay. So active and passive contracts is nothing to do with technical analysis and more to do with strategy.
Definition of an active position is a position that is opening for the first time. For example, right here, you'd have
So what I mean by opening and closing for the first time is you have a target and new shorts open, as opposed to somebody who's in a target from much higher. Like if somebody was short from up here, they would be in a passive position. Passive position means you're already in a trade from a higher point, right? And you're using a trigger to release that trade. So this whole level would be the trigger. where passive contracts may close. If you have no open positions at all, like you have nothing on the books and you hit a level, that is actively entering a new trade. That's important to just kind of define it from zero here.
Again, so an active short means that this person is not in any orders. This is not a contract that's closing. This is somebody who's opening up a new short to look to close in profits somewhere in the lower ranges. So they don't have a contract they're closing. And the reverse of an active position would be, so an active short would be a closing position. So somebody who has entered, any level down here, or any one of these moments, right? Like you would have, I don't know, just find your hold levels here and find you have, so you have your hold level here. And an active position opens here because you wouldn't have positions closing on this level. It wouldn't, unless people just don't know what they're doing. Well, I'm sure you have people closing positions. Again, they just don't know what they're doing. This is something where you have active positions opening, right? So this is a moment where you're saying, okay, my positions are going to actively be open. So I'm not, we're right here in time.
So really the first thing I'll say about this, well, second, I suppose, is that this is defined by polarity. So active and passive are also a good opening segment into the idea of polarity, and one of the ways in which we can see polarity in the charts. So when you're thinking of a moment that dictates whether something is going to go in one extreme or another, that is going to be active and passive, and the way that we can first identify where polarity exists. Polarity is created when active contracts, when passive contracts close. So polarity can be created on passive contracts closing, or it can be created on active contracts opening.
Player tool where
it can't be created, but it can be held.
Okay, here's my target. I'm going to put a contract there, and I'm going to open the contract, and I'm going to pick a target. So I'm actively opening a contract. My contract has been opened. Now I need to find out where to close it, right? So my position holds. We start to move up, and so be it. You have an active position now that needs to be closed somewhere. So an active position, you're going to find a target on your charts. We can use this. That's fine. So you'd have an active position here, and you'd be setting a target somewhere in this range here to close this position. So there's a difference between active positions and positions that are closing out, right? People here all this whole way, and this is where you're going to see. So if we actually rewind this for a second here, this is where you're going to see people who are in shorts are now going to start thinking about, okay, what do I need to do to get out? So for example, you have a range right here that represents shorting, right? So possibly people would be shorting this level here. So we'll use, we'll use red. We'll do conventional red for shorts. And we'll do green for longs in this. Change this to green, like so. Perfect. Yeah, this is a nice green. I like this one. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to make it a little thicker. We'll do this. Actually, we're going to make it thinner. So you have positions wanting to enter here that are longing, and positions wanting to enter here that are shorting, right? So you are going to have a bit of a staggered setup here, right? So you have two positions, right? You have shorts entering here, longs entering here. As this move
this
develops,
also ties back to strategy.
Both sides of the contracts open. Okay. So right now you're in this move. You've just entered your long positions, right? You've just entered long positions. Right here, people will make a decision to either start closing their contracts, right? So if we actually pull this back to here and we look at this hold level, we can say, okay, this hold level is going to hold up the move. If it does continue to hold up the move, you're going to have the better people who are traders. They are going to start closing these contracts that they took and these contracts that they took. So they are in active trades right now.
So this is where you would use strategy and what I created in the what could possibly go wrong as your umbrella set of ideas where active and passive contracts close. So if you were in a short right here at this level or from somewhere above, you can see that the ladder is forming. That's where you'd get out of your trade. So Loon, you asked a very specific question. What do you do when your target isn't hit? So if you were in a short from here, say, for example, and your target was this level down here, your short is, oh, sorry, you guys can't see my mouse. Your short is from here, and your target is down right here. So that's your trade, right? That's your strategy. You want to short this level because you think it's going to break down to here. Well, it laddered off of this. that's a spot where you could say, okay, well, it looks like my trade isn't going to hit my target, so I should consider getting out. And then you're going to have those spots where you have hold levels laddering the move as to where if your target was right here and you're in an active short from right here because you just opened it thinking that you're going to break back down to the greediest level, which would be down here, you can start to see that those contracts will start to support the move. Like you can see the hold level here that gets hit, and this level gets hit, and when that happens, that's when you would start to pull your entry in the moment, and you're looking for those spots, and that's what happens on these hold levels, is that you have people who have entered short. They're using those spots to get out of the trade. Like if this was the first untested level here, if you can say that this one is already tested because you're using the actual candle here and the reverse got hit right here, fine, great, your next level would be right here. And so that's where your target should have been. That's not true, then you have to see where your next target would be. And every time you're going up this chain of hold levels and ladders, you have contracts that are getting out. So any shorts are getting out. So that's kind of the point of this.
Or sorry, I should say, they have actively entered a short here or here, and they have to close their contract somewhere.
That's where you'll see, just to answer the second part of your question, where do you pull your entry? You pull your entry when you start to see like the ladder happening, right? Like this would be the perfect spot to pull your entry.
As this price stabilizes, now they probably won't see this level.
Your target's not hit.
Who would be?
You look at the ladder points.
Well, you know what? It's actually not.
And that's where
terrible.
your active and passive contracts are making decisions.
Profits. It's not horrible. You know, you've got this to this. You've got 50%. So
and the definition between
and that's
active and passive is kind of like understanding polarity in its first
closing
like the first way to understand polarity.
Maybe they got lucky enough to get off the top of this here, which would be, I'm sure, another level back here somewhere. Yeah, I'm sure it would be this right here, or yeah, that one there, and then the high side of the range right here, right? So you've got different spots where people are actively opening new short positions up here. Okay, you have people who are actively opening up new long positions down.
Another way you can look at it that makes that might make it easier to identify where passive and active is. Passive typically exists on larger time, on larger time frames, but not just large time frames. They exist in moments prior. Like the more interior you get on the chart, the more active positions you have. The more exterior components, the more passive you have.
Here, as this move is developing, it's not that this thing is starting to pump. Okay, as this is moving down, this is starting to move up. People will close those shorts, right? So you have all sorts of people. You're going to have people entering on this level short. You're going to have people entering on these levels up here short. You're going to have people entering here once the move is already half over. You're also going to have people entering here because they think, oh, you know, just about to start a huge move down, and they're actually late to the party. So you've got all of these shorts. So you've got a marquee of shorts that are everywhere from even these higher levels up here. You're going to have shorts from up here. You're going to have shorts from up here that never got fulfilled. You're going to have shorts from this range. You're going to constantly have shorts on the book that are going to comprise of where this thing moves left and right and up and down, right? You're going to have a position of different shorts that are constantly adjusting what's happening. So this is not so much about understanding, hey, there's levels that we short and long. This is about understanding where shorts will close their position, because the best shorts will have closed it right here, which actually also end up holding the move up. So
yeah,
shorts,
so what we're talking about is polarity, right?
Right.
That's important.
If enough shorts relong this level here, it will actively hold the position up. So you might not even see active traders getting in here. This can be a combination between active trades, so people who are opening new longs, and people who are in shorts that are looking to take their profits, right? Or know that this is going to hold the move up, and they are looking to exit. So it's not that people are actively buying this up. This is that shorts are closing. So the closer you move up, the faster this thing will compound higher and higher and higher, because what's happening.
And so the reason why this happens, as to why passive contracts closing, this happens, is because those are typically larger hedge positions. So an example of this would be, go to a larger time frame. People who are in these higher ranges will have trades already set up from here, which is your hold levels. Like the higher the time frame, higher time frames are active trades. They start as active and they continue as active trades until there's a moment where they turn into a passive trade that closes. Passive trades close in hedge moments. So like this ladder point here, if this holds, this is where all the active trades from here continue to close. What was an active trade in the moment turns into a passive trade. So they're moments of polarity. This is super important to realize. When you have moments where you find final hold levels, deep dives, what holds those up are passive contracts closing, which hedges moves, which means that's reversal in charts. So that's part of understanding active and passive contracts. It would be like the same thing here. It's why that you create these big moves. Like there's a bunch of contracts here that were going to put AS as an active short right here. This is an active short. This stuff down here is active longs, and even further down. Once these moments happen, that active turns into a passive trade. A passive trade sits in a trade and waits until it gets to a moment where the final has been hit. A passive trade closes, so this executes at the same time this executes, which creates polarity. This passive contract, which was an active long in this moment, finds its moment to short. The passive contract closes and creates a new active short, also known as hedging, right? So this is like when a position hedges. And it happens in a cycle over and over and over. So an active short turns into passive trade when it's correct. So active short here turns into a passive trade, ladders off this piece of the move where the active long existed prior, which is typically where you see active longs. Let's erase this on the screen. This is where you typically see like a range starts from active longs, okay? That active long typically will take your active shorts, which, by the way, this is passive at this point, this is passive at this point, this will become passive at this point. So the passivity or the passiveness of a contract comes after the active part of the contract. This active short will typically turn into an active long off of the latter point of the previous active long. That makes sense? It should. Anyways, I might have said active long and short, the wrong one once or twice here, but you guys get what I mean. Like an active long here turned into a passive contract. A passive contract closes to create an active short, and where the active long existed, it's ladders, right? Like as you're talking about ladder points and where they make points of polarity. So by being able to see active shorts and active longs, you can start to understand what polarity means, why it exists where it does, and how to identify polarity, right? A big backside move is because a big player has a huge order sitting on the books. Backside move? I don't know what you mean by backside move. I just need to focus more on previous ladder points. First time I watched this, it blew my mind. Candle up doesn't, or people FOMO in. Candles up become spots for people to hedge, and hedges are created as active longs and active shorts close passive contracts because they're in the contract already. Like they're in the contract from whatever spots down here, and it's just passively sitting there. And it's just passively sitting there until there's a point where they say, okay, that this passive contract is going to close. I'm going to take my profits and re-hedge down, right? So active and passive. So this helps understand where polarity points can exist. Just like right now, as to where active longs can exist right here, you can have those longs closing here, creating active shorts, and then further hedging the move down. So it's points of polarity and understanding. Like it was the first kind of segment into helping people understand where polarity happens is by backside bounce. I'm going to say no. I'm not following. Sounds a bit like supply and demand theory. Yep, exactly. It's just the reason in which it happens. Reduces supply, and the reduction of supply only increases demand. Oh, I wouldn't say it's some supply and demand, because supply and demand is created off active and passive, driving the price back in the other direction. Supply and demand would say that people are, those passive moments haven't been decided on supply and demand. Supply and demand comes after active and passive, if I was to kind of rank it in a hierarchy. But yeah, exactly. Kind of like supply and demand in a way. Just what would happen thereafter, because those contracts would already be, they would already be in play. So the active and passive decision becomes before supply and demand.
Is the quicker you move up, the more shorts that are going to push the price. So this is
supply and demand would be like the second stage.
Buying active positions. Now you have some of that. People will enter here and they'll enter here and they'll enter here. So these are the people who are obviously not trading very well.
Supply and demand becomes hold levels, I suppose.
Move up and they think, oh, it's time to go. We're moving to the moon. You know, it's
very simplified Theory of
Turn on
holdovers?
the spaceship.
I'm not sure.
Put your bags in the, put your
Yeah.
suitcase in the cargo shuttle with the rocket fuel, right? It's just like kind of silly because there's no reason
Really,
to
the
enter this
hidden,
trade as it's
the best
moving
part
up.
about
There's
active
just
and passive
no
contracts
common
is that it
sense to it,
starts to
because what
become
you're going
points
to
of
do,
polarity.
and as time goes on, these arrows are getting bigger. You're going to have more and more contracts closing as this thing goes. So as this is starting to breach its levels, you have to realize that it's not active trades coming in, it's contracts closing. So here you have contracts closing and the people who
It's what
refuse
causes
to,
ladder
to
points
close
as
their
well,
contracts,
active
right?
and
So then
passive.
you go, you go one more candle and this move starts to hold. So people will have like
Active
kind
trades
of a round
create
two.
ladder points, passive trades
This is kind
create
of like
polarity.
round one where people are closing their active position. So shorts are
I
trying
need
to
read this
relong.
by passive stop market buys. Sells mop up the order. Books causing the bounce. I wouldn't look at it like that either. I wouldn't look at the books in terms to no, I wouldn't look at it like that in terms of the books. Sells mop up the orders sitting in the books, causing the bounce. Let me think about this for a second. Passive stop market buys. Flash sells mop up. So passive stop market buys. So passive is just when somebody decides that they're like, a passive is an open contract from a higher level. Like passive moments exist more exterior. Like this would have been where a lot of passive contracts exist, right? Like there's a lot of actives that open here. This is an active, and as it goes through its failure, it turns into a passive contract here, and that passive contract stays in from the previous point, which is a ladder point. But the active points create ladders, as to where passive points create polarity. Like your passive points are creating polarity, because where this is going to be active as a new trade, a passive would existed before that, creating that as the hedge for actives to come in. And that passive creates that active on the hedge. So the passive happens first, passive contracts close, right? You have passive contracts closing, and sometimes you can see it like this, where you have a small move up like this, and then another move up like that, and then it dumps because this is passives closing, there's not enough volume to fill, and then the passives finish closing and open an active down. That's where you see polarity happens off of passive. So passive will happen always before active. So if passive contracts don't close, points of polarity can't be created. Hopefully that makes sense, because passive will always come first, because you can't have somebody who enters here enter active shorts until the passive contract is filled and the active hedges it the other direction. So a passive will always create the first moment, then the active contracts come in. But passive creates points of polarity, and points of polarity from passive contracts are created from previous points of contracts. Like this right here would be active longs. Like this would be active shorts. Or that can happen as active shorts, passives have to close. Before this can happen as active longs, passives have to close. Like short here happens, passive closes, creates an active long. Just like in this moment here, active shorts will come in when passives close, creating points of polarity. Hopefully that makes sense. It's really the first step in identifying where polarity exists. That would be like the kind of the important takeaway. Wait. This lesson so much clearer on why the market is developed and why things react the way they do. Are there some mathematical reasons why levels are held? Butterfly effect too, possibly. I'll talk about things.
Once this starts moving up, people start smashing either the
Wait, I missed one leg in deck. Active contracts equal ladder points. Yes, exactly. Active contracts. So, like for example, that's another part of it. A passive closes here to create polarity, right? That can snap the move. This is now just active contracts entering. Ladder points are created off active contracts. Passive contracts closing create polarity. Active creates ladder. So yes.
market button or the limit to buy this thing up. That's round two. This is like round one right here. We're just going to draw this like that. Round two is right here where people start to move the price up and these shorts are closing their position. People will hold.
We'll talk about strategy after with this, because it's another important part of this.
So now we're going to do it like this. We're going to go like this. A number one right here, right? But this one is going to be a little different. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do this a little cleaner here. Let's do it like this. Let's go with the text tool. We're going to go one, that, and that's fine. So you have shorts, and we're going to use red for this because this is where shorts are going to exit their position. So for this, we're going to use red. So we're going to go like this. 1, that's the first spot shorts will exit. 2 will be right here, right? That's where shorts are exiting. And then you're going to have 1 like this, new shorts coming in on this level, which also just compounds the amount of moving up that this is going to do. So new shorts are going to say, oh, here's the level. We just hit the top. We just double topped, like the famous double top candle pattern, the garbage that doesn't make any sense why it would even exist. Oh, we just double topped. We should probably reshort again. Meanwhile, you have another round of contracts about to close as soon as this thing starts to hold because they see, oh, it's not moving down. I need to exit and profit. So all these people, not only from back here that shorted this, that are stubborn, that shorted up here and want to secure profits, that shorted all of these different levels in here, right? That's also shorted.
So what I want you guys to think about as this is happening, as we're talking about actives and passives, is strategy. So polarity can create strategy. Active and passives can create strategy. So when you're thinking about where to take trades in the market, you got to think about strategy. So if we were to, I guess I can just back to this example we were using before, this 4-hour level here. This range down here, okay? If this 4-hour level holds, which trades would then exit here, right? Because you've got a 4-hour level holding. Well, I think this was a backside weekly or daily, if I remember correctly. Kind of basing this off memory here to find this level. Gone so far into the charts that I don't even know where it is. So was it like a weekly right here? I think it was. Weekly right here. Okay, perfect. So if you've got weeklies right here entering active, because this would be a point where active trades enter. This would be another point where active trades enter, right? You would have this as a 4-hour level, like you go down the trail of 4-hour levels, and you're not done creating your move yet. So if we were to like back this up here, in here, just so there's less clutter on the screen. Weekly gets hit, you create a big dump. You're still laddering off of this move. You haven't found the bottom. So this could potentially be, okay, there's a 4-hour hold level here, right? Can this hold? Well, we don't know yet, but let's do the the replayer even further back. Let's go right here. This would be a spot where if this level holds, you're going to have polarity happen, right? You're going to have active shorts that were active here that have now turned passive. This is where they'll exit if you start to create a ladder, right? Because right now, simply you have a 4-hour hold level. You have your ladder from here to here, your interior ladder, which gives you this right here, your combo level. And if this holds, maybe you'll have contracts exiting here, right? Like that could be the 4-hour level where contracts could exit. This creates polarity in a chart, okay? It doesn't, it just breaks down. Okay, it goes after the next 4-hour level. So we can just kind of like get rid of that stuff. Here's a 4-hour level here. This one can hold, creates another level there. Bounce and move, it can't, it didn't hold. So it could have used this and then hard close over this and created a bounce point. Okay, so contracts can't close. Passive contracts aren't closing yet. Has target been hit on the bottom side? Not sure yet. I guess we could just keep going. Okay, you have a 4-hour level here, right? Can this one hold? Okay, that one held. So if this continues to hold, contracts may close here. You're still kind of laddering this move at this point. So does it really make sense for passive contracts to be closing yet? This breaks its move. Hard closes. So there you'd have a spot where contracts will have been closing, right? Goes back down to the level. That again. So you may have these traders exiting that spot right here, where this level continues to hold, and maybe they justified it on the back, right? It's a point of polarity where you're starting to create the bind of the next move. Oops, you can do that. You can delete this. Okay, your next hold level right here. That hold. Backside held. This is going to be another spot. Oh, now we have right here. Might be a little too premature, right? believe it's there. Kind of using memory here a little bit. Can't hold through trend. No point for them to exit. Okay, here's the next one. 4-hour level. Hold. And hold. Oh, it laddered the move. All right. All of a sudden you have a backside hold here. Is this going to go back and hold? Actually, why would we use the backside? Let's just continue front side. Let's hold. And we're not testing that. We're actually creating another 4-hour level. Okay. Hard closing over the local range trend. We've only got a ladder point left. Guess which passive contracts are going to close? I don't know if you guys can hear my kids screaming. Kids awake. Here. Probably have like a weekly here. I'm sure you have other time frames you're supposed to be working with. I'm gonna kind of put like a dummy trend here. It's not really important. Yeah, guess which contracts are closing when you're starting to break interior ranges and polarity happens. Backtest your 4-hour, break over top of that. Well, guess why that happened? That's passive contracts closing because they can just sit in this forever. What's the difference between taking 22% or 18? Not that much, versus that same school of theory where you're sitting here saying, oh, I can just stay in this trade as a passive contract until this moment. Might as well just take 5%. Sure, but that's not the way passive contracts work. Passive contracts close when they start to break these moments. So instead of taking 5%, the contract can just stay in forever. There's no harm in it staying in because it can just sit as a passive contract. I'm sure a lot of these passive contracts closed here, and it's what supported the move. And if not, then the passive contracts from here, come on, have their final exit point. Come on, dude. Shift click is not working. So yeah, they could have possibly exited here at 22%, but your final exit is here when you start holding up a higher range, and that's what hedges the move, and that's why it flies so high, because those passive contracts not only close and are using this moment to close because they can see it's happening, they can see like, hey, these levels are holding, let's just continuously hold up the price, but then they can hedge long and it can launch this move. So now they're just in a long from here. Or these passive contracts can close wherever their respective point would be too. That's all a part of strategy and creating what your binds on the move are. But passive contracts closing are the points of polarity, and that's how you see points of polarity. Well, that's part of how you see it. That's not the only thing, but that's part of how you see points of polarity. Have to go. Enjoy the weekend. See you, man.
All of these different levels in here. These shorts, these greens, as these will be active shorts in profit, right?
The more interior the moment,
this one is no longer in profit, right?
the less
So
polarity that can be
exited.
created.
Or most people don't exit in profits. Most people actually exit at a loss because they're scared.
Not worried about that right now.
Their coins and their tokens. So this guy's already probably in a loss. So he's going to exit relatively soon, or just simply get.
You have to think about strategy with active and passive. You have to think about, okay,
occurrence happening.
How exterior are these passive contracts that are defining the markets? Like another, sorry to go back to this and break up the video, but like another good point of understanding passive and active contracts is realizing that passive contracts will be exiting here and creating new shorts as active shorts. And so when you zoom into your time frames, you'll be able to see that those will constantly hedge this level to make it a short opportunity. So it's part of also understanding strategy as to where you can dictate larger time frames, points of polarity, longer time frame trades on passive moments. You can't dictate these passive moments and create strategies like, oh, let's go for, it kind of boils back down to the same 4-hour hold level here and creating a strategy off this 4-hour hold level here. Like you can't use this interior range to create this big internal strategy. How you do that is by passive contracts closing on exterior ladder points, right? That's how you justify those bigger, longer time frame trades. So kind of active and passive contract understanding into what we talked about earlier with this interior ranges can't be dictated as these huge levels. It's just not possible. It's not a strategy that works. However, passive contract spots where passive closes, that's creating polarity. If passives don't close, guess what happens here? If passive contracts don't start closing this level, guess what happens? It loses its range and it goes way the hell down here or lower, wherever the hell it's supposed to go. So when passive contracts don't close, polarity happened in the opposite direction.
Because people think, oh, short, we're moving down to the bottom.
We're talking about large volume traders are primarily impacting charts.
Yeah,
I mean, that's, yeah, when you're talking about passive contracts closing, yeah, you're talking about like large,
happen right here.
Exactly.
Shorts, oh, we're moving down to the bottom. Meanwhile, you have,
it's like the few that control it all. So yeah, exactly, Seabass. It's Exactly.
phases of shorts that are going to be closing like this. So the number 4,
so when you're talking about what type of leverage, there's no point in trying to understand, because every single institutional trader will have their own separate contracts with these exchanges. So, you know, to say they all use X isn't true. They all have different laws they abide by. They all have different caps. They abide by the types of fund, dictate the amount of money they're allowed to trade with. There's too many variables to say, oh, people with over $10 million liquid in one trade are trading this. Well, it depends. It depends on the fund type. It depends on the trader's relationship with the exchange and what they have agreed on their contract. It depends on their taxes. Some places you're not allowed to trade over certain amounts. So it really depends.
next part of shorts that are going to close is going to come in a large wave of shorts, right? This is going to come in a large way because
a good rule of thumb is 5x
the magical
with very
double
large
top
amounts.
is failing, and it's a triple top that couldn't form. So now the triple top can't form. It's going to have a breakout, right? It's just silly thinking, because how many shorts are re-entering this? So how many active shorts are entering this versus active longs? So that's the key thing to understand here. We don't have active longs. Your active longs happen right here. So active longs, we're going to put in pink. The smart active longs happen right here. And we're going to make this one a little different. We're going to go like this. We're going to go bold, italicized, and we're going to make it hot pink. Yeah, that is hot pink. And we'll do a green border. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe not the green border. That's a little silly. So we're going to go here. We'll do no bold, just italicized. This is active longs re-entering the position. And then maybe you have another phase of active longs that starts to move this thing once.
I think everybody realizes that hedge traders are what decide the market, Loon. So you said it's so fascinating to learn what moves the market. I think like everybody knows hedge traders are what decide that. So how do, like, you go down the trail of thinking, okay, so like what creates ladder points? What can create a ladder point? What can create a deep dive? That's a hedge position. Well, what's a hedge position? A hedge position is a passive contract. Imagine a passive contract. Say somebody has, you know, $50 million on 5x, being a $250 million Bitcoin position. They don't just close their trade there and walk away, right? They exit that passive contract to re-hedge up, because they have the power to do that with these large accounts. So you have to ask yourself, like, okay, well, what can create ladder points? Well, ladder points are created off hold levels. Okay, well, what about deep dives? Deep dives are the ultimate ladder point. Oh, well, this is true. So what can create a deep dive? Hedge. Well, what creates a hedge? A passive contract at the edge of its range. Well, where do you find the edge of the range? Well, you understand where polarity is. What's polarity? Polarity is where a hedge happens. So by understanding how active and passive contracts work, it really helps identify not only strategies, but it also helps identify where ladder points can exist based on what created the range. So in understanding how ranges work, in understanding what creates ladder points, the deeper theory would be active and passive contracts hedging the greediest points. Well, what are the greediest points, the greediest levels? Well, but there's greedier. Yeah, well, there's deep dives. Well, what creates a deep dive? Ladder off the previous range. Well, what creates that range? Well, when you draw it all back to the beginning of the move, what can create that range? Well, that range is created to dictate the future of Bitcoin from here, when whatever 64.6, however much is there, is using a range on the chart, closing passive contracts and opening active. And it's that same trader who says, okay, close passive, right? XP, close passive, open active. If that move starts to fail, guess what happens? That open active, this open active, guess what happens to it? It closes, causing a little bit of a dump, and then a new active opens. So it's like actives cancel actives. A new active happens, and then you have a new active short off of what was an active long that creates distribution. So this is, now you're starting to get into the deeper theorem of how does polarity exist? Because actives canceling actives are how polarity exists when you have a big dump. So again, you just draw it back to the logic flow of, you've got a passive, you have passives here, closing here, and creating new active longs. Those same active longs, if it was that same $250 million, when this trade fails, that same active long closes, that same account then opens a new active right here, active, which turns into a passive short. So what was supposed to be an active long into a passive short turns into a passive long oh, sorry, I said passive short. What was an active long turning into a passive contract? That passive contract, upon failure, closes its active state. Closes its passive state and reopens a new active. So it's like this. A creates P, and the failure of P, so when P fails, so PF, so P failure, let's put that on this side. So like, so we'll do F right here, PF. So F is supposed to be this path here. Passive failure opens a new active where active cancels active to create new passive. So this is like tree 1, which is a little complex to understand, but that's fine. It's the way it works. Otherwise, the other point is that passive closes here and creates a new active, which turns into a passive. So in one tree decision, you have passive closing against its active. So an open active against its active, which is created off P failure, creates the new P off of AA. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, like if I break it down like that. But it's like a decision tree that happens where an active cancels its own active, where the passive long is supposed to be true. When it's false, a new active is opened by closing the passive against the active, which is like PF equals AA leading into PN, which is P new. So it would be like this. PF A, which turns into PN, which is passive new. The other side of the tree would be P true turns into P complete, turns into active new, which turns into P. Hopefully that makes sense. That's the way it makes sense in my brain. Anyways, I don't know if people can follow that kind of more of like a formula, but that's fine. I'm sure it makes sense. No more back up. Okay, let's get back to it.
This is actually moving up. Like once you actually stabilize a level.
Okay, let's not get back into it. So understanding that is how you see points of polarity. I had to add that in there because it's important. So that's how you see points of polarity. That's like the formula.
And you're starting to move up, you know. All
I think everybody's going to leave this hating me. Sorry, guys.
Crossers, this and that.
It's how my brain sees it.
Up here, all that other junk.
Compartmentalize this information, and that's how my brain sees it in a formula.
Over liquidity of long positions because you have shorts actively exiting this trade. So as
okay, you guys get it. Good.
Now those people, they just
won't speak for everybody because that's a little
out of this trade because they're you know, now
I'll
they
just
say,
speak for the few who have said I get it.
The position is compromised. It's a triple top, you know, and people will still be opening shorts here who are quickly going to panic out. So the higher this thing goes, the faster you have shorts relonging the position because people will try to short to move against the move. It's human nature. It's just the way people trade.
We moved a bit too far past this lesson, but that's okay.
Top or bottom. So now, once you pass this level, you can imagine the amount of longs that are going to come into this move because everything will now be closing. There's no reason, unless they're getting liquidated, there's no reason for any of these to be in the position. So imagine all of these shorts, you know, all the people who are still taking the smaller part of the profits, all the people who are about to get liquidated, all the people who have just entered this trade thinking we've got a triple top, you know, hammer forming or whatever they call these things. I'm not quite sure, but whatever they call them, these patterns. Then you've got those people exiting. So quickly, once you pass this level, once you break above this level, you are going to have an influx of shorts hammer through the books. And then that's creating another problem because you've got people sitting here saying, okay, I'm the taker. I'll take all your shorts because I think this is a smart spot to take an active short. So you have shorts exiting into more shorts, which will exit into more shorts, right? Because then these people will exit their trades into the grouping of people up here. So you've got shorts exiting into more shorts, and these shorts, which are these guys, they move their shorts to here. These guys pick them up. They'll move at every level this thing moves up into these guys, and they'll continuously move it up until there's a level that offsets it where you have longs closing.
So that's what we just described, right? Where you have passive contract that finds a spot where passive is complete and hedges into active. That's what you're talking about here. So the moments that matter are finding those points of polarity, which are, you know, down here, further down the hold levels and up there. You know, sometimes drawing this stuff on a chart, it gets messy like this because communicating how I see it in my head versus what's actually on the screen is two different things, because I see it as like, if when I break this stuff down, it's all compartmentalized for me. It's all, you know, one block of information in my brain holds this, and another holds the formula, and another holds this. So it's, you know, but teaching it, you can't, like, nobody would follow that mumbo jumbo. Like it just doesn't resonate with most people. So teaching it is, you know, layman's, as to where what I do here with like a formula is the way like I would see it, kind of thing, if that makes sense.
You see, that's the key. The key is the longs closing, because the longs closing will offset the shorts closing, right? So this is not a testament of, oh, the move is ramping. Now, sure, there are people who will get into this move as it ramps, right? Now let's kind of see how this goes. You see how many shorts just closed and how many new shorts just opened up, and then how many of those closed again. But there's no buying logic here. There's no purchasing logic, right? There's no taker logic. There's no maker logic here. This is just simply shorts exiting into more shorts to compound this move into something it's not supposed to be, right? And then so finally you have a target, right? In the end of this whole thing, you have a target. In that's where you have your longs now taking profits. This is the first spot they take profits, right? Into the people wanting to short, right? So then you're going to have the same thing on the other side. You could go Control I and flip this to do the same example, or we can just leave it like this. That's fine. So again, 2 is going to be shorts here. But the difference is you have these people who were this buying segment here has targeted this, and they will sell that. So that will offset the contracts closing, because there's a certain point where people just they aren't entering this trade anymore, right? And that's offset by where not only long contracts will close, but profits will be taken, and active long contracts will close and active shorts will open. Closes and active trades get initiated at this level, right? Just like they did down here. And those are your levels. Like, you can take all this stuff away here. Take a bulk of those away, and we'll take a few more away, 2 more, and we'll just leave one red, one green, one here, pink and a green. Okay, we'll leave 1 pink, 1 green. Now you have profits taken from these longs here. You have profits taken.
That's what you're saying. This is more interior, passive, open, active. In the smaller time frame, however, this should be like, think of this back when I said, you know, remember strategy. Think of this back to that 4-hour thing we talked about a little earlier today, where how can you justify a 15-minute range to attack a 4-hour level? How can you say here's a 15-minute interior range? It can attack a 4-hour level. While this may be true, it's justifiable on a different time frame. This would be the same thing here. Like, yes, this level could go much higher. I'm not sure what happens next in this lesson. However, this is justifiable as strategy to strategy, and I'm sure the strategy would actually be justifiable time from here to somewhere inside of this range. It looks like this was, you know, back testing, pulling back, and actually attacking a larger time frame range. It looks like a 3-minute chart. Oh yeah, it's a 3-minute chart here. So this is kind of that same thing. Interior actives, interior closing, active closing, interior hedge short, right?
Properly, right? And then you have active
hedge short, exit active, sorry, exit passive, interior, which would be just interior relevant to this time.
Shorts opening here. So green is going to be for active shorts here. It's a little backwards. Usually, typically we would take green for long, but we've been using green for shorts in this, which is fine. They're shorting into longs. This is why I use green, because the longs are trying to be the takers here, and shorts are the makers. Oh, the other way around. Shorts are the takers, longs are the makers. So then you have the same cycle happening. You have people shorting here, right? And then you have, you know, this pullback happening. You have long positions that are going to start closing. So you have people longing this level. You have people longing this here. You have people longing this right here, thinking this is going to move up, right? So you have new long contracts opening. You have a long contract here, and then you have another long contract here. Do this too. You have long contracts down here that are still open, right? We do that 3 down here.
Now you're defining more exterior moments,
contracts all in here.
more exterior
Maybe
polarity moments.
Shorter leverage, I think, get liquidated. So you have levels in here. You probably have about
exterior moments looking for polarity, exterior contracts that are from much larger time frames that haven't done anything yet.
A bunch of them in here, right? Like these different, there's all sorts of different crap in here that people are going to buy. So you have a bunch of stuff in there. Maybe we'll just move them so we can see these number 4s a little easier on top of the bodies of the candles. That's number 2 right here. And then you're going to have like number 5s in here, all the people who kind of FOMO'd in the move. These are all the long contracts that will be closing. So you see, these are all of these red ones here are current positions. They are contracts that need to eventually close. They are not actively putting up new contracts. You also have, maybe you would have some people longing here, which would be suicide, but hey, maybe there even is some people longing there, but we won't do that. Where these long contracts from down here have now exited here, you have all these long contracts here that will also short the move to close their contracts as this thing moves down. And then so you're going to have even more new long contracts open all in these regions here. So, you can go number 6 right here. You can have more number 6s here and here and here and here. All these people trying to, buy this big move up, right? They're just buying this move up like it's going out of style, right? So then you have all of these contracts will eventually have to close. So when you get to this point, and for this example, now we know better than that. We know most of these people are getting either liquidated or they are taking a profit loss, right? So we know these guys. So for this example, we can just assume that they'll close right at the middle of the number. So we'll just strike through the number. So you have contracts closing here. You have longs creating short volume there, here, 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 here. The bigger the spread, the more the volume that comes in, because then you're going to have people who are trend players who do this and say, oh, there's a trend here. Let's close these positions down here on trend. The guys who missed the full move, but maybe they take half of it because their whole plan is to just kind of ride this trend as far as it'll go. So when trend collapses, you have an influx of shorts coming in. Then we can see here what's happening, and that's fine. And that's and so that's where these trend players, big ones here, instead of understanding where they should have closed their contract, which is, let's just even say it's here, they closed it there for 0.8 when they could have made an additional 130% here. I think that was 8 to 2.1. Yeah, so they could have made an additional 130% here if they understood the mechanisms of these levels instead of just trying to play a trend. So when we have trend break, you have to realize that trend represents pretty much every contract that starts from this point forth. I would say trend makes up, one moment makes up a bulk of these levels, as to where these are a bunch of little things that move it down towards trend. All of these levels here, these contracts that are closing, are moving it down towards trend. But when trend breaks, then you have people with indicators who are getting out because there's a MACD cross happening. And so the MACD cross happens here. So maybe this person bought here because the MACD crossed, and then they sold here because the MACD crossed on the other side. They're just averages over time, right? So that's what it's going to look like. So then they, instead of taking, I don't even know if they get out there, they probably just got liquidated. Probably a 1 minute candle here, right? It's probably just, somebody had their way and said, yeah, they're just trend players, right? They're just.
So why do you guys think this dump happens here? Longs closing. You don't get random market dumps like this by a bunch of people coming to a handshake agreement all over the world where people say, hey, let's all dump because trend is being lost. No, there's typically hidden information, like hidden levels, hidden ladder points. This level here is holding up the move, right? This is the hold level here on the reverse, whatever, 1 minute hold level, holding up the entirety of the range. The target was hit. And now anybody who's in a long can say, okay, like if your long exists back here, for example, if your long exists back here, down here, this is exactly where you would hedge your passive contract. You would have either done it here at this level. This is quite interior for the move, but this is like like this. Anybody who didn't hedge level here thinking it was breaking, any big contracts left, that's what this is. That's a passive contract closing into an active short, which is hedging against the long where it was already in failure from up here. So again, this is like understanding active and passive contracts. It's really the foundation of understanding polarity. It's really, and it's why it comes at this point in the lessons. After one day at a time, creating this active and passive scenario where you're understanding active and passive contracts as points of polarity. It's such a stark moment when you're talking about why charts move the way they do. to be market manipulation. No, that's not the way it works. There's not. Okay. Do you think that people who have $250 million on the line or $100 million on the line just want to prove a point? Liquidate the longs. Like, nobody's risking $100 million out of ego. That's, if you play Counter-Strike, we call that in Counter-Strike ego peaking, or like Valorant. It's called ego peaking. Nobody's risking their life unless they're really shitty. That's what brand new players do. They ego peak. They have a sniper rifle, they ego peek because they think they can win regardless of the angle. Sometimes it works out. Most of the time, they're just stuck in Wooden League. They're like silver, bronze, possibly even Wooden League. This isn't the way it works in the real world. These kind of egotistical moves, no. Everything's like very calculated, very formula-based. Nobody's quote-unquote manipulating the market. That's something that bad traders hang on to try to justify what they can't understand. And no good trader with anything over $1 million. Like, I don't. If you had $1 million, put yourself in that shoe. If you had $1 million, would you trade against the market just because you wanted to like risk $1 million to prove a point, or do you care about your money? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't. There's no such thing as market manipulation. People who think that are out of their minds. There's just like a disconnect to logical thinking there. Nobody's manipulating the markets out of intuition just to prove points. Like that's some low down thinking, man. Not saying you're a low down thinking person. I'm just saying that idea of market manipulation is just like low down thinking, because that's all it is. It's just like ego peaking. This lesson makes a lot of sense. Oh, okay, let's finish it. It's like 10 more seconds.
Just trend players who bought a trend somewhere down here, or maybe they even bought down here. I'm not really sure where they bought. Again, not understanding the mechanism of where this trade is going to go. Simply, they just bought some level, longed it with a large amount, and then they just wait till this moment, and then they just break trend themselves, which is fine.
Yeah, and it is perfectly fine. You can take a long on this and then just lock up profits. It's like a trigger point, right? It's why this comes before trigger points, because understanding polarity comes first, trigger points come second. Trigger points are often hedge moments, just like that 4 hour. Where's that 4 hour that we were looking at? Oh, I deleted it. Oh no, it's in the replay tool. Here we go. Just like this moment. Here, question. Just like this, right? Like this just becomes a trigger point, a release of passives. Active contracts enter, they turn into passive. Passive hedges the trigger. Very simple.
There are traders and
not simple, but very
and things like that do that.
Logically driven.
It happens, right? It's not the correct way to trade. It's highly inefficient, but hey, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? Inefficiency is what makes up our markets, people being inefficient.
I want to show you something real quick. Give me 30 seconds to blow your mind.
Let's analyze this for a second. Default charts, white screen. He's got no indicators. I wonder if he's going to talk about indicators. Okay, default chart, Fibonacci. Is this Fibonacci trading?
Normally, a trader would pull up a chart and start out by drawing a trend line. Then they'd find their low price and draw out a Fibonacci.
He's using Fibonacci's on his screen, dude.
From green to green. And that's something you'll learn how to do. But with Smart Trader and the smart tools built in, it does all the work for you. If you want to draw a perfect trend line, click on the Smart Trend Line tool,
we not master
and it's
the markets
drawn for you.
Hold on. Something that can draw fibs for me is perfect, dude. It's just such like illogical thinking. Oh, it's crazy. I wear a suit like that just while I'm trading. Am I doing it right? And that was a bad one. Yeah. So let's talk about actives and passives for a second. That's just what you see here. You can have like your most bonehead trend, which is just, you know, the test of the level to the. There's a different accumulation. Accumulation to accumulation. This breaks, these passives exit. It's polarity, right? It's polarity. It's when all moments are lining up. So when you're trying to find polarity in trades, when you're trying to find polarized moments, understanding where passive contracts will close is what creates them. And it would be like the same thing here. Like if these are active contracts down here, closing here, right? Like if nothing closes here, this just keeps moving up, right? So when you're asking yourself like, oh, what about this range? How come that didn't close? Well, it's a ladder point from here. It's targeting the higher ladder point. I want to throw a brick. I'd throw I don't even know if I can play it again. If I refresh this enough, that's what'll come up. But yeah, like you think of strategy, right? Think of strategy, and this is why this comes at this exact moment in the lessons, because you need to know active and passive contracts and the way they work and the way hedging works and the way that at a higher level, there's this formula that's used, right? Like where passives and active contracts open and close, and then what causes polarity is passive and active contracts. So you can't understand where polarity exists if you don't understand active and passive contracts. You can just see that as trends, but trends and levels, and that's fine, but you would never really get a sense to where polarity can actually slingshot a move. Like you see here, you see this slingshotting of a move. Well, that's because you have polarity breaking, right? A very local trend by that line at 5 moment like this. Interior wise, yeah. People in longs. Oh, look and see if it's holding. It ends up as a trigger point, right? Like it ends up, oh shoot, the lesson on. It ends up as a trigger point, just like the 4 hour, just like everything else. They end up as trigger points. Trigger points to exit shorts or longs. That is why trigger points are so important. If you break a trend, you can hedge your passive into a new active, which turns into a passive upon succession of the move. So it's why active and passive is so important. And like also hedging, it's important for hedging and it's important for polarity. It holds a local range when it begins to go below this trend. The longs close, price falls straight below the longer trend. Shoot, I closed it. But I remember it went straight down. Yeah, it just acts as an active trigger. And if there's no hold levels left, then it's kind of like, oh, no untested levels left. Passives are opening new actives. Polarity happens. We're going to finish this lesson too on active and passive. So let's take a break. Got another 20-minute video here. So let's take a break and come back to this. I think no worries. So active and passive don't fall under the umbrella of marking specific technical analysis. Active and passive more have an understanding to do, or the pre-context to understanding how you can see polarity and where you see trigger points. So you won't directly get anything one-to-one. Oh, here's a passive contract. This means X. Rather, it's the understanding of the theory layer of how those things exist. So sometimes in my videos, what I do is I introduce a theory first. I then show how the theory is applicable. Like if you were to go to this, where's lesson 12? Analytics. So analyzing the move, right? Oh, I'm going to have to go back to my other. Don't know what the next lesson is. I'm pretty sure trigger points should be coming. Trigger points are actually much later. So what did I do next? Analytics, range defining. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Range defining. And the final hold low. Yeah, because you need to know those things first. Yep. So this becomes almost like chapter 2. Like if you were to think of butterfly effect, the previous lesson would have been chapter 1. What would have chapter 1? End of chapter 1 would have been 1 day at a time. So marking out levels, marking out trends, understanding hold levels, walking through a move, front side, back side, and then 1 day at a time. Let's mark levels and let's move 1 day at a time. That would kind of be like chapter 1 in the butterfly effect hierarchy. Chapter 2 would be starting to understand polarity. So that's where you get active and passive contracts. So this is not like, separate this from the other knowledge, because this is not something where you're like, oh, I now know how to work with a hold level better. I am marking this in a smarter way, because that's not a theory driven concept. This is a theory where you're talking about active and passive contracts, not theory as in it's just a theory. It may or may not be true, but theory as in it's not a directly controllable aspect of the chart. It's not something where we mark a level, we mark a trend, we do something specific to see more information. This is understanding what can create ranges. This is triggers. This is where hold levels succeed and fail. So this is more of the understanding in the beginning chapter of understanding polarity and the way that the levels work on the charts. So you have to understand active and passive contracts and the way they work first in order to see that bigger formula in play. And when something dumps out of its mind, you're not sitting there saying like, why did this dump so much? Or like you're sitting here and saying, how come we broke right over the range? How come we went straight up to the next set of levels? Like, why is this big move? there's a certain understanding there that you need to have before you understand, like, oh, yeah, of course, you have a bigger move being developed here. You have passive contracts closing from here, opening new actives, hedging the trigger points. Boom, very simple why it launches out of its mind, but without understanding active and passive, or at least having the opening conversations to allowing you to understand why the bigger volume, like that's why volume doesn't matter in charts, because volume doesn't dictate anything. Passive contracts closing dictate volume. Volume doesn't dictate anything. The moves already happen once the volume's in. Why you have these big dumps and it's like, oh, well, of course it moved like crazy. It had all the volume, but okay, so if that volume didn't exist, then why? Well, what wouldn't cause volume to exist? Well, no passive contracts. Passive contracts closing create volume. The move's already over if volume is in, right? So kind of like this trail back to the origin point, or the reason behind the original reason as to why things happen is active and passive contracts, hedging markets. Well, hopefully that makes sense, because I know this lesson is more deep on theory and less about marking a level or, you know, moving in specific manners. Okay, we're going to take a break and we're going to move on to the next video.